Hey guys, this is Courtney from Will's Bloom, and I am here to talk to you guys about the Leo new moon happening on August 8th at 16 degrees of Leo. So I have a lot to say about this. I am going to get into the breakdown for each of the zodiac signs, but I would recommend listening to this initial part because I do feel like the message is going to be really important. Even if it is general, I think we will all be feeling this energy. Okay, so this is an interesting moon. I'm really getting a distinct feeling for it. I feel like there is this interesting straddling here between light and dark that's happening. One of the most prominent things about this moon is that it's making a square to Uranus, and Uranus is also conjunct the point, it's not an asteroid, it's a point called Black Moon Lilith. The darkness that I think is coming is through Black Moon Lilith, and the lightness that is coming is through Leo. So Black Moon Lilith is actually the point that is the furthest side of the moon from Earth. So the moon is representing the feminine energy, and when it's the opposite side of the moon, it's like the repressed feminine, the shadow feminine. It's the feminine, or not even just feminine, but it's the side of ourselves that represents certain aspects or desires or personality traits that have been shamed by people, that have been pushed down and repressed in order to fit into a more conventional societal role. Sometimes this repression can lead to more extremes in the way that you express this aspect of yourself, because the shadow is there. So sometimes the shadow, when it's involved in a transit like this, can come out and rear its ugly head. And so I do see that some of the darkness that could come up could be with this Black Moon Lilith. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. The sun is in Leo, and so this is where the light is coming in. And the sun is at home in the sign of Leo. So it loves to be here. It's expressing its true essence, its true self. And I feel like what it's trying to do is help us create a solid foundation in our lives based off of our own inner sense of self, our own inner confidence, our ability to meet our own needs, and then building a foundation from this strong place. And so it's interesting that we have kind of the repressed shadow feminine coming up, and then the strong masculine lighter energy as well, and mixing together. And so I do really feel like we're taking strides towards that stability in our life, coming from within, coming from our own inner power and our own inner confidence and knowing. But then we also have these more repressed sides of ourselves that have not been fully healed or dealt with, that are going to come up during this new moon. And because it's a new moon, it's a new chapter starting. It's a seed being planted. It's really a moment in which we start to see a glimpse of what is to come over the next 2 weeks, and especially over the next 6 months in the larger chapter of what's unfolding. And so I do feel like we're going to have this kind of push and pull, 1 foot in the light, 1 foot in the dark, 1 foot in our confidence, 1 foot in our shadow or repressed self. And I do think that that this moon is an expression of that. So this moon is making, like I said, a square to Uranus conjunct Black Moon Lilith. Any moon making a tight square like this one is, it's only 1 degree, so it's going to be intense. Any moon within a 1 degree square with Uranus is indicating that there is going to be a desire for sudden change. There's going to be a desire for freedom, for liberation. And with this conjunct Black Moon Lilith, I think that this is going to come from this repressed part of ourselves. We're going to have been repressing this side of ourselves so much that we're going to want to do something radical to release it, to release that energy that's been building and that feels so uncomfortable in that state. However, this moon is also in opposition to Saturn. It is a really wide orb. It's 6 degrees. Normally I only look at 5 degrees and below. So it's going to be felt less intensely. But the days building up to this are when we're really going to feel the opposition with Saturn. So the opposition with Saturn and the sun and the moon is creating this feeling of being more stuck, being less optimistic about how things are going, maybe feeling more lonely, more depressed, just general pessimism about like the direction of things, your relationships, your life, feeling like things are not where you want them to be. And I don't think everyone's going to feel like this across the board, but I do think most of us are going to have an area of our lives where we do feel this sense of frustration, where we do feel like things are just not really working out for us like we hadn't hoped or intended. And I think when it comes to this new moon, it's getting to the end of that. So it's going to start dissipating that energy, and we're going to be feeling a little bit less of that intensity around whether or not we are happy with where we are, or like where we're going essentially. And so with this square to Uranus, I feel like this change is desiring to be born through us after this feeling of like we're being held back, like things aren't flowing as well as we would like. And so what we want to do is almost like break free from those chains. And it's interesting that this is happening kind of around the same time that Jupiter dips back into Aquarius and rules around COVID are starting to tighten again. I feel like it's kind of a representation of the internal energy we're feeling of not wanting to be bottled up again and wanting to almost rebel or have the circumstance be different than it is. And so there can be this feeling of frustration along with this energy. And so there's like the darker shadow side that wants to just burst out and express itself, but then there's also the sun and the moon in Leo wanting for us to step into our more regal essence, our more kingly way of being, like our fullest expression of our energy and our confidence. And I also pulled the Strength card, which is, if you know tarot, it's the Leo card. It has the line on it. So on one hand, I feel like this is illustrating that this is, of course, a Leo moon. On the other hand, I feel like it's also talking about the chapter that we're in, where it's going to require that little bit of strength to move through another chapter of challenges. And not saying that this is another chapter of challenges necessarily, but I do feel like there are going to be elements that are challenging over this next 6 months that we wish would have just flowed easier. We wish would have been a little bit less restrictive. And I think that this Strength card is saying that we absolutely have the power to move through it and to come out learning the lessons that we need to learn. And I do think that this moon is going to be very healing because it's making a trine to Chiron, which is an asteroid related to past life and childhood wounding. And a trine is such a positive aspect, and it's indicating the blessing that's coming from this. So the square to Uranus, the opposition to Saturn, those are heavy energies, those are intense energies, those bring about feelings of discomfort. But it's through that discomfort that we ultimately are going to find healing. It's through releasing some of these repressed sides of ourselves, the shadow sides of ourselves, through acknowledging our frustration at the situation, the feeling of limitation and lack. It's through that we're finally going to make peace with our situation and transmute that energy that's been stifled and create a greater sense of freedom, of feeling light, airy, and like we're moving on to a new chapter. And so I ultimately think that there's a little bit of discomfort during this moon, but I also feel like it's extremely healing. And so I think it's going to help us release some of those things from the past that maybe we have been, again, suppressing or that have been building up for a long time. Just be careful that you're not prone to extremes at this time, because sometimes Black Moon Lilith, since it has been repressed, can come out in these incredible bursts, especially when it's with Uranus. It's like much more volatile. It's much more unpredictable. And we don't want to go to too many extremes where we regret something or where we end up hurting somebody, or it just doesn't actually achieve the goal that we're looking for. We want to release the energy in the best and healthiest possible way without creating more problems for ourselves. Black Moon Lilith is in Taurus, and it's interesting because this card, which says hope on it, has the Taurus symbol on it. I don't know if you can see that right there. That's the Taurus symbol. And so I kind of feel like this Taurus energy is actually very important. I feel like part of what is actually going to help us heal and move on is being able to release anything that's suppressed around the Taurus energy. And this card says hope. And so I feel like what it's doing is it's transitioning us into a new chapter where we're more hopeful in regards to things around Taurus matters, which is where Uranus and Black Moon Lilith are. So what are these Taurus matters? What could that look like? What needs to be released for us in these areas? Well, Taurus has a lot to do, it's a feminine sign, first of all. So it has a lot to do with the feminine. And it has a lot to do with also, when I think about it, like the Empress card, this feeling of being mothered or nurtured and cared for, not only by the earth, but by any kind of physical or material aspect of your reality. So when I think about Taurus, I think about the physical body. I also think about our sexual expression of the physical body. And I think about the way that we connect to and relate to other people and understand our own needs. Taurus also has a lot to do with our sense of self and our confidence and belief in ourselves. It's also about our ability to hold on to things past the point of needing them, or to be, I guess, resilient, I think is the word as well, to see things through to the end, to fruition. And so we might have some things around those areas of our lives, around love, around money, around food, indulgence, material wealth, material belongings, the physical body, sexual experiences. We might have some repressed tendencies in those areas of our lives that do come up at this time. It doesn't have to be that, but because both of these planets are in those signs, it is in Taurus, I do feel like that's where we're going to see the major themes come up in our life. But of course, it also depends on which house it's in for you. I also want to talk about some of the other stuff that's going on in the astrology that's outside of the moon, meaning not aspecting the moon or the sun directly. So first of all, I want to talk about, actually, let me talk a little bit about these cards first that I pulled about the moon, and then I'll get into that. So I pulled the first card for the moon was the Eight of Swords, which says self-victimization. To me, this is kind of the energy we were experiencing with the opposition with Saturn, where leading up to this, it could have felt a little bit like I think honestly, just feeling like harder on ourselves is really what's going on with the Eight of Swords. It's like you're under attack from your own thoughts, from your own mind. So I do feel like that was the energy leading up to this moon. But then I pulled the Ten of Pentacles, which is this very stable energy. It says legacy, and I feel like it's something that we can build upon for our future. And so I feel like that's ultimately what we're attempting to create right now. I think we're getting maybe a taste of how that could come about for us. And we're getting a taste of that through this change that we're desiring to make. So whether that's changing your friends, moving, changing your jobs, changing your approach to something, there's some aspect of our life that we need to change to release that repressed side of ourselves to create that sense of stability. And again, I think we're going to get a taste of it. I don't think it's going to come full force because it's a new moon. I think we're just going to get an idea of what that's going to look like. And over the next 6 months, I think we're going to really see ourselves create some kind of stability in our lives that we haven't seen in that area before. But the card after that I pulled is the Hanged one, which says surrender. And so the feeling that I got with this is that even though we're striving for the sense of stability, ultimately it's coming from a place of releasing something. The stability is coming from us not holding on to things. And I think sometimes when I pull, like, for example, the Four of Pentacles, or when I think about Taurus energy, there's kind of this desire to hold on to what you have, for that self-protection, for that sense of stability, that security. And really with this square to Uranus and with this Hanged Man card, what it's saying is that there's actually a need to release, to change, to be able to step into the new chapter. You have to let go of what you're currently holding onto in order to step into something that's new, that's actually strong, that's going to hold you. And so I absolutely feel like that's what we're supposed to be doing at this time. And I think that's why both of these points or planets are in the sign of Taurus, because we're meant to be actually asking ourselves what we can leave behind in the old chapter, what we should not try to hold so tightly onto. I also pulled some cards out of this new deck that I got for, it's like a woman deck. I don't even know how to describe it. But this one says, she who sees, Makita, observe, perceive, and scrutinize. So I feel like this is us maybe observing and scrutinizing where this shadow self is coming up, this repressed shadow self is coming up, how we can create change and liberate that shadow self, and also what aspect of ourselves we should no longer hold on to as we're moving into this new chapter of confidence and a greater sense of self-security. And I feel like she kind of looks like a lion too. She looks like this like tribal warrior princess or queen or whatever. And she's able to scrutinize in her life what is actually working for her. And it's almost like she's able to use her intellect and her wisdom that can come from the sun being in Leo. The sun is all about wisdom, really. It has, and when it's in its own sign, it has the ability to tap into that nature, that kingly essence. And I feel like we're supposed to be using that part of ourselves right now to take an honest look at our life and and ask ourselves, like, if you were going into battle, what do I really need to do? What do I really need to bring? And just like being honest with yourself. I think that's kind of like the biggest thing here, which honestly is going to be hard given some of the stuff that I'm seeing in the rest of the astrology. I feel like this is the advice because of, I think, given what's going on in astrology, like our mindset is actually going to be like altered, or we're not going to see things super clearly. And so I think this is telling us, like, as a warning to slow down and make decisions based off of your keen insight and perception instead of idealistic thinking, which is what we're going to be prone to at this time. And this is kind of like illustrating what I was just saying. This card says, she who dreams, Isra, escape, dreams, and fantasy. So I feel like a lot of us are going to be in a little bit more of a fantasy land in terms of our mindset. And so I think it's going to be really important to balance these two, where we can dream and hope for the future, just like I pulled that hope card. But at the same time, we're being realistic and perceptive and honest with ourselves about what's to come and what is actually going on. And so I think I'm going to get into that in a second, but I think that's a really big theme right now is being hopeful, but realistic and honest. The last one is she who thrives, orchid, flourish, prosper, and blossom. And that's the feeling that I'm getting with this new moon, is that even though right now it might feel like not the most, it might not feel the best initially. I feel like anything with a square to Uranus doesn't usually feel like amazing immediately. It does in the sense of relief, like you wanted that part of yourself to be free and liberated and you feel a sense of relief. But on the other hand, whenever we have that kind of like radical disruption or change in our life, it's just not as comfortable as it is when we're like receiving blessings and like on the upward trend. It's like we're having to release something, we're having to change something. That there is something inherently challenging in that, just naturally. But this orchid card to me is saying that over the next 6 months, we're really going to start to see the fruits of this. The flowers are going to fully bloom. So right now, when we make this change, it's like we're throwing out the seeds. And then over the next 6 months, we'll start to see them open and flower, and we'll be able to smell them and enjoy them when we walk past them. And so I feel like whatever you're holding tight onto now, it's okay to release, because something so much prettier is going to blossom in its place, and you're going to be so happy that you did make those changes in your life. Okay, so let's talk about the other stuff that's going on in the astrology that can definitely inhibit our ability to think rationally. So we have Jupiter, and it's in Aquarius and it's retrograde, making an opposition to Mercury in Leo. So I feel like what's going on here is that whenever Jupiter is retrograde, I feel like a lot of our ability to perceive the bigger picture of reality of our lives and to get a sense of direction in terms of where society is going, where our lives are going, that is all kind of turned within, and we start to get a bigger picture or a better picture of our vast inner landscape. And so we're able to see more so how we've healed, how we've changed internally, what struggles we've been encountering. It turns that perceptive eye inward. However, with the opposition to Mercury in Leo, it can make us unrealistic, overly optimistic, sociable, so we can have a good time connecting with people, we'll be more likely to feel good with this. And so the opposition to Saturn probably won't be that big of a deal because of some of these other aspects going on. However, because Jupiter tends to think big and Mercury wants to see things for how they are, not bigger, not smaller, just how they are. The opposition is indicating that that's not happening, that there is a distortion of the image, that it's becoming grandized, too big. And so what's happening is there's basically a need for us to focus, to look more realistically and more carefully at the situation and at what's going on, and to maybe wait to make certain decisions about things that are really important, especially around love and money, because we have Venus and Virgo opposing Neptune. So issues related to love and money right now are also distorted. Neptune makes things hazy. Neptune also can make things over idealistic. So with Jupiter opposing Mercury and Venus opposing Neptune, we're more likely to feel good, but it's not based off of reality. Like, on one hand, the universe is telling us to use this energy to have hope and let your imagination take you to that place where you feel optimistic and excited for what's to come. On the other hand, the universe is also telling us that we absolutely need to use our discernment and our realisticness to be able to see what can truly flourish and what is there as maybe just a distraction, or as a lesson, or as something that is not really meant for us, but kind of looks shiny initially. So when it comes to love and money, hold off on your decisions right now. If you're noticing that you're really enjoying your time with someone, please enjoy your time with someone. But just remember that you're more likely to be gullible at this time, more likely to be taken advantage of, or to just not perceive the situation in its full clarity. I also really want to warn against over-giving, especially because Venus is in Virgo. So now that it's in Virgo, there is a heavy focus on our ability to serve other people in relationships. We're going to want to show up for people. We're going to want to help people. And I think with this opposition with Neptune and Jupiter opposing Mercury, we can overdo it. We can give more than we should, and to people who maybe aren't as deserving as they, should be for receiving that from us. And I hate to say that, like, well, don't give as much, but honestly, that's something that I've been learning lately, is that just because it's in your nature to give that much doesn't actually mean it's in your best interest, because sometimes the person truly cannot meet you halfway. And if they can't meet you halfway, then it's ultimately going to be an energetic drain on you. And so it's possible that you can encounter people who are more okay with taking advantage of you at this time. So just be attentive to that. Venus is also making a trine to Pluto. So I think this can intensify our desire for love, money, and prosperity. We can start to become more obsessed or more focused on those aspects of our lives. And with the opposition to Neptune, we're more likely to fall into situations where we feel like it's this perfect scenario that's like meeting our desires right now, but it's actually not. It's actually like too good to be true, or maybe we just need to let the situation play out in its entirety. So I'm not trying to discourage you from your relationships and from money, but I guess what I'm trying to say is that not everything is like super clear right now. And so don't make big decisions, and just kind of allow things to unfold and try to use this Venus trining Pluto energy to focus on your relationship with yourself just as much as with others. Because if you get too focused on, attaching yourself to other people, I think this is when issues can start to arise. Also, it's probably a really good time to have intimate relations with people with this trine. And so, yeah, if you want to like feel that more intensely, more deeply with your partner, this is a good time for that as well. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing for the overview. Now let's get into all the different zodiac signs. All right, first we have Aries Rising. So for you guys, this new moon in Leo is happening in your 5th house. And behind the scenes, I just pulled some cards for you guys. And it's really interesting because this moon is specifically, it's squaring Uranus, which is in your 2nd house of finances and resources. And one of the first things that pulled up was the Magician card, which says creation. To me, the Magician is about manifestation. It's about manifestation, and that's exactly what the 2nd house is. It's about utilizing your skills and putting in effort in order to manifest something into your life. So manifestation obviously is more than just wishful thinking, wanting, writing it down. It's also taking action towards things. And you guys also got the 8 of Pentacles, which says hard work. So I feel like you guys are actually going to be in the process of manifesting something at this time, and working towards something different. I feel like it's going to be a change, possibly in how you earn your income. And with the moon in the 5th house, I feel like it's going to be something that brings you a lot more pleasure and a lot more joy. So maybe it's something that you, over the next 6 months, are going to do that is starting to make you money, or even if it's not money, even if it's just confidence, and just giving you different kinds of skills. I feel like you guys are going to be doing something different in that area of your life that is going to feel actually really exciting for you. It's going to feel like it's a hobby, it's a pleasurable thing to do. And I feel like it's just a lot less serious and maybe a lot of the energy that you've been dealing with Pluto moving through your 10th house of career. I also pulled the card Jocelyn, she who persists, perspective, defiant, and persistent. So I feel like you guys are also going through kind of a different cycle here as well, with the cards that I pulled underneath the Magician and the 8 of Pentacles. There's like kind of 2 different storylines that I see happening. And I feel like this Jocelyn card, talking about you persisting, is very likely talking about this second storyline here, where I feel like you guys are probably having some type of ending occur. And maybe the persisting is you persisting with this new hobby, or this new thing that brings you a lot more joy in terms of developing your skills, your confidence, or your income. And it might take a little bit of, that hard work and dedication and persistence, a little bit maybe more than you thought. Okay, let me finish talking about the astrology and then I'll get to the cards. So this moon is also opposing Saturn in the 6th house. And as I've been saying, Saturn's opposition is a wide orb. So just like the last video with Pluto, it's not going to be felt that much. Really, it's going to be felt by the sun, which has a lot to do with our life direction, our vitality, and just like the general like busyness and action going on within the public. Like basically coming up to the days of this moon, Saturn is going to be opposing the sun. And so on the day of this new moon, it's still there, but it's leaving. So the energies are passing through. And so what you might be feeling up to that point in time is a little bit frustrated with your current situation in regards to your friends. I do feel like with that last moon, you guys were getting some reprieve, you were getting some manifestations or some outward experiences in terms of either your friends or your goals for your future. Like I felt like people were coming in, you were making connections, and things were going well with that. But now that Saturn is opposing the sun in the 5th house, there might be some kind of like blockage in terms of those friends. So maybe like they're less available, or maybe you desiring to pursue some of your more creative hobbies is in contrast or at odds with your responsibilities in effort that you have to put towards building those lasting relationships. So that might be a thought that you guys experience at this time, like, hey, I really want to work on this new way of making income, and I want to work on this new hobby or this new passion project, or even taking care of my kids, and somehow that's going to change my finances. But it's like you putting energy towards that is also kind of taking away from the energy that's within your friendship sphere. So, and I pulled this Strength card. Yeah. So you guys might be going through a little bit of a chapter where you just maybe feel a little bit more frustrated or blocked, or like you have to put additional effort to build up those friendships in a way that maybe doesn't come as naturally to you. This moon is also making a trine to Chiron in your first house. So I feel like there's something inherently healing about you guys changing the way that you earn income, or changing the kind of skills that you're working on, or even changing your level of self-confidence and how you view yourself. All of those aspects that are undergoing a metamorphosis are ultimately going to heal your self-perception, your identity. It can also contribute to general physical vitality and health as well. So I feel like this is kind of like a soul healing process that comes from you making decisions that feel like they light you up, more than just decisions that feel solely responsible. You guys also have Jupiter retrograde in the 11th house, opposing Mercury and Leo in the 5th house. Again, I feel like this is you maybe being over idealistic, or unrealistic about being able to do your friends and your hobbies. Like, it's almost like realistically one is kind of happening at the expense of the other, but with Jupiter making an opposition to Mercury, we can kind of think that things are going super well and that we have time for everything and we can get it all done. But in reality, Jupiter opposite Mercury is distorting what's happening, distorting our perception, so that we can start to feel like we have more time and abundance and everything like that than we actually do. And so I think that it's going to be important for you guys to know how to, I guess, like, I feel like time management, I guess, is what I'm trying to say here. Time management is going to be key when looking at these two different areas of your life. It could be like friendship and children, long-term goals versus passions and hobbies, friends versus like this new way of making money that you're trying to do. Like there's some how like not really fully coinciding as much as they should, and your brain is not recognizing it. It's like not computing it fully because Jupiter brings optimism and lack of clarity. You guys also have Venus in Virgo in the 6th house opposing Neptune in the 12th house. So Neptune in the 12th house, this is a very long transit, one in which is getting you more comfortable with the idea of releasing control, with acquainting yourself more deeply with spiritual practices, more with your dreams, just like a greater sense of surrender happening. But now that Venus is opposing Virgo, Venus is in Virgo in the 6th house, I feel like you guys are kind of focusing a lot on the way that you show up to work or to your work relationships, like with colleagues. Like there's a general focus there, and with Venus there, I feel like some of the friendships that you could be making at this time are with your colleagues. But with the opposition with Neptune in the 12th house, you might not be able to see the full picture of how this relationship with your colleagues or with those people are going to unravel over time. The opposition with Neptune creates that idealism and that lack of clarity, just like Jupiter opposing Mercury does. And so this can be great for creating harmony and feeling like things are going really well, but it can also be challenging when you're trying to get a really realistic pulse of where you stand with that person, what that person is like, and yeah, your general relationship with them. So just be careful not to be overly optimistic about your relationship with people, and not to be cautious. You don't want to be cautious, but I guess you just don't want to, like put energy into things where the people end up not being who you think they are. Venus in Virgo is also making a trine to Pluto in the 10th house. So I feel like this is good in terms of your career. It's going to gain you guys more power and recognition in your workplace. So if there was ever a time to be having an impact on your colleagues or to have an impact in your workplace, this is the time to do so. So I also feel like you guys are going to be more magnetic in manifesting and attracting the kind of finances or goals that you have within your career, and also just generally relationships within your career. So I'm now going to talk a little bit about some of these cards that I've pulled, because I do have this whole bottom row that I haven't really talked about in the tarot cards. So I pulled the Six of Swords, which says transition. Right after the Six of Swords, I have the Ten of Wands, which says burden. And then right after that, I have the Ten of Swords, which says endings. So you guys have two 10 cards. 10 in numerology is representing the end of a cycle and the beginning of another cycle, especially with the Ten of Swords. There's a finality to this ending. And so I feel like there's a lot of different things happening for all of us in our lives. I don't think it's just one aspect of our life ending, but I feel like the primary way that things are going to end for you over the course of the next 6 months is in the way that you make money. I feel like you guys are going to have, again, some source of income or at least confidence and new skill set around a hobby that you didn't have right now. I feel like the ending is this old way of maybe only giving your energy to your career and to the people that you work for, if you do work for someone. I'm seeing you guys kind of like, with a new moon in the 5th house, this could be you starting a business. It doesn't have to be that. It can be any kind of like side hustle, passion project, or hobby that has a potential to influence either your confidence, your skills, or your income, or all three. So I do feel like that's where the ending is coming in, is that you guys are going to have I feel like the ending is releasing this burden of feeling like you are stuck in one particular job, doing one particular thing that you don't enjoy. Not saying that you guys are all doing that, but I do feel like some of you guys might be in a particular career right now that isn't feeling its best. And you're undergoing a really deep metamorphosis in your career area because Pluto is moving through your 10th house for years. And so feeling this energy kind of slowly transform you and chisel away at you over time. It's going to have many different chapters to it. And one of the chapters I feel like many of us are at is this feeling of like, I'm good at my work, I'm excelling at my work, I'm getting recognized with Venus and Virgo in the 6th house, and making a trine to Pluto in the 10th. I feel like that's good energy. However, I feel like even though you might get recognized and you might feel like you're doing well, I don't know that you are fully in it and you are fully passionate about it. Maybe some of you are, but there's probably some of you out there that feel like there is some type of burden at work that doesn't feel very good. However, there is a transition card that begins this. So it says transition, burden, and then endings. So part of your burden could be the fact that you don't have full clarity about where you're going in terms of your career and your work. With Venus opposing Neptune in the 12th, there's a possibility that the relationships you're creating in your career are just fine. There's no possible deception. Everything you're seeing clearly. And maybe the deception or the lack of clarity with Neptune that's coming in is around the direction of your career and how you want to invest in it over time. And so I feel like transitions are basically knowing that you don't want to be where you are, but you don't really know where you want to go yet. And so I feel like that is part of the burden here. So I feel like there is some aspect of your career and your way of making money that needs to shift or to change. And this feeling of uncertainty and being on a boat out at sea, wanting to find land but not knowing where that's going to be and how you're going to end up, that can feel very scary, especially for an Aries. Because as an Aries, your chart ruler is Mars. And Mars is all about taking action, taking control, taking initiative. And so to be in this energy of Venus opposing Neptune where you lack clarity, you're out at sea, you're wobbling around, you're just waiting for land to hit you, basically. You don't have that ability to take initiative like you normally do because you don't even know which direction to paddle in. It would be futile to start paddling in a direction when you're not quite sure where that is. So I feel like that burden again is from not knowing and having so much up in the air about where things might go in your career. But eventually I see this with the Ten of Swords coming to an end and you guys having a clearer sense of direction. I feel like this is going to occur over the next 6-month period. I do think that you can have a change of income, a change of job that would result in that. And because I pulled the Strength card and the Persistence card and the Hard Work card, I feel like some of you guys are really needing to hear that you are manifesting something beautiful, but you just need to hold out. So some of you guys might be in this transition phase where you're not sure what that is, but then at some point you're going to be sure, and you're going to need to know this message here that all you have to do is persist and you will manifest what you're looking for. I think that there can be a degree of fear often associated with these cards, because whenever we're pulling the Strength or Persistence, it's like, what are we persisting through? There can be fear around not being able to achieve it or what that's going to look like for you. And so I think these cards are just coming in here to say that you have this ability to manifest. You have the ability to work hard. You can create this. And once you have that clarity, you will, if you can just persist. So that is what I'm seeing for you guys, Aries and Aries Rising. If this resonates, please like and comment down below. If you are interested in learning how to interpret your own chart, your own transits, and be able to see how this will affect you personally, then you can check out the North Node Society membership, which is linked down below. I have a whole astrology course there for you guys to check out. And I hope you have such a good day. Bye. All right, Taurus Rising, this new moon in Leo is happening in your 4th house of home and family. And whenever we have a new moon in one of the angular houses, we are going to experience a much stronger effect that can actually make an impact in our external world. What's interesting though is that this is primarily in the 4th house, which is a lot about your emotions and your interior world. But because those shifts have such an impact on what tends to manifest around us, I also feel like this is going to be a more obvious moon for you guys. So I like to pull some tarot cards to go along with the astrology, and I just pulled the Ace of Wands, which says inspiration. So if you know anything about aces, they are about new opportunities or new beginnings, kind of like the seeds of a new moon. And what I do feel like is really important about this new moon is that I think it's going to be something that unfolds over the course of 6 months and is not just this kind of 2-week spurt. However, because this moon is making a square to Uranus, I think we will have realizations about sudden changes that we desire to make. Do I think you'll have fully made these transitions and changes in 2 weeks? Maybe some of you will, but the effects of that and the story of that is going to take at least 6 months to play out for us. I also pulled the Knight of Pentacles, which says efficiency. This is about you being responsible and getting organized. And that does make a lot of sense, given that Saturn is transiting your 10th house of career, asking you to become really responsible and effortful in your career. I also pulled the Chariot card, which says momentum. And that's what I feel for you guys. I feel like you guys are having some degree of action and momentum that is going to translate into external changes that are very visible around this new moon. So as I mentioned, the moon is making a square to Uranus, which is in your 1st house. This is a tight square. It's within 1 degree. And so I feel like what this is going to do is impact you on a very core level, especially if you have any planets or your ascendant around 1 degree of Taurus. Yes, you guys will be very, very impacted on this. And I feel like it's going to have the kind of like impact that is like tentacles that reach into many different areas of your life. Because the 1st house in astrology, where Uranus is all about every aspect of ourselves. It's our physical health. It has a lot to do with our purpose, our personality, our identity, our way of interacting with the world, being seen by the world, being born into the world. So it's the house that is most relevant to you. So when you have a big shift happening in that house or in that area of your life, it is going to reach out into all the areas of your life. And so I feel like this is a really big one, and that's probably why I pulled the Ace of Wands, which is saying that there is some inspiring and passionate new beginning happening in your life. And what I love about a square to Uranus, Not that squares are great, because squares feel a little bit tense, but I love that Uranus is here, because Uranus is this kind of electric charge that creates change out of a desire, an immediate desire. We want immediate liberation. We want immediate results. We have this stroke of passion or stroke of genius that comes to us for us to create that upset or that revolution in our life to get a different result. And so I feel like this is going to feel like a very inspiring time. Yes, there's going to be unrest kind of surrounding it, but it's going to be an inspiring time, especially in terms of you establishing a stronger family life or home life. So this could be you like living in a different place, establishing different familial relationships, having just a big change in your life in general that feeds into you having a different home, family, or emotional foundation occur. So for example, I could see someone like this having changes in their career or in their relationship, which eventually impacts either their emotional nature, their family, or where they live, like their physical home. And so that's kind of like the thing that I'm seeing happen for you guys. But I do think it's going to be inspiring. It's going to be something that feels exciting to you guys. It's not going to be a change that's just thrust upon you, but it might feel like you're compelled to do it, like you don't even have a choice. But I feel like with this Knight of Pentacles card, it's saying that just because there's this revolutionary energy with Uranus doesn't mean that we should just throw everything away and start afresh. It also doesn't mean that we should just rebel against the status quo entirely. I feel like the Knight of Pentacles is coming in here to tell you to be very practical in your approach to making this change. Because this new moon is happening in the 4th house, there is a desire here for the change to be foundational, or to lay a foundation for you, to have this kind of step-by-step impact. And I think that isn't possible if you just do it on a whim. And so I think that the desire is going to be really strong, that you might want to do it on a whim. But given the fact that you're a Taurus rising, I think that you're naturally capable of bringing it back to the practical steps in order to achieve that liberation without it being like this crazy throw all caution to the wind kind of thing. So I think you get what I'm saying with that. And I actually feel like that slowing down process of taking a step back, planning, really assessing how you're going to do this, how you're going to move forward, whether that's moving houses, starting a family, changing your relationships, whatever that is, that practical approach is actually going to create a lot of speed in your life. Because sometimes once you've put in the energy up front to get organized, sometimes it creates that fast track so that everything after that is moved out of the way and you can just speed on ahead. And I feel like that's what that's saying with this broom, is kind of like when you sweep everything away, like the floor is slick. There's all the debris are removed from your path and you can just access it straight ahead and have nothing slowing you down. And so that's what I feel like this is saying. You guys are also having Saturn in your 10th house opposing this moon. It's a very loose opposition, so I'm not focusing too much on this because it might not be felt as much on this moon. I do think it's going to be felt in the days prior, where you might feel like some areas of your life in regards to your career are sometimes at odds with you building this new family or home life that you desire. So if this is somebody, for example, who has a business and you're getting married soon, maybe you feel like the effort and the energy that you need to put towards your business is also taking time away from you planning your wedding. Or maybe it's the effort that you have to put into appeasing maybe some of authority figures and taking care of people in your life, like a parent. Maybe that feels like it's a burden from you being able to spend time at home with your family, relaxing and enjoying, or even taking care of your own mental health. So these are just kind of general things that they could be in regards to like career and authority figures, and then your home and family life and an emotional life. These things are slightly at odds, and it might feel like the heaviest aspect of it is this kind of responsibility that you owe to the external world. It's either a responsibility that you owe to your family in the external world, like maybe your parents, like you don't live with them anymore, but you have to take care of them. That's like the external world in a sense. Even though your family, they don't live with you, so they're not part of your insular unit anymore. Same thing goes with your bosses, your careers, your businesses. Any kind of outside responsibility is kind of somehow a little bit taking away from the energy that you need to dedicate to yourself, your mental health, your emotional well-being, your home, your family, your living situation. You guys also have Chiron transiting your 12th house, and this moon is making a trine to it. So I do feel like you guys are able to heal some elements of your past self as you start to make these changes that feel very inspired. So some of these things that are coming in for you guys right now, these ideas about what you want to do to change in your life, which again, being in the first house can be any aspect of your life. So it's hard to get specific with this because of that. But because you're making those changes, you're actually starting to heal from some of the things from the past that maybe felt like you couldn't achieve some of your goals, or that maybe felt like you were never going to be the person you wanted to be, or like you were suffering from the same kind of cycles again and again underneath the surface. I feel like some of those things are going to be dropped because you're starting just down a different path. You're making different choices and you really are becoming a different person, truly, given this transit. It might not be in every area, or it could be in every area. It depends on how it's hitting in your chart. So I pulled the card Regina, she who instigates, leadership, provocation, power. So I feel like this is kind of related to the fact that Jupiter and Saturn are both in your 10th house. You guys are innately right now a presence in the external world. People are looking at you. People are relying on you. People are noticing you. You're having an impact on the public or on authority figures or on someone in the external world around you. And I feel like this Regina card is helping you recognize this power within you. Jupiter in the 10th is opposing Mercury and Leo in the 4th house. So I feel like you guys might be feeling like some of this leadership responsibility you have, maybe you aren't actually able to fully see how that is impacting you on an emotional level, or how that's impacting your family or your home life, and the way that you take care of yourself. With Jupiter opposite Mercury, we can feel very optimistic, and so you might feel like things are going really well in your career and your home life, but there might be sometimes like an over idealism that occurs with that, where we can't see quite, not how things are going, because I do think that they're going well, but maybe you don't see quite how much responsibility you're also putting into that area of your life. Maybe you don't feel it as much. You don't feel the Saturn as much as I do when I look at your chart, if that makes sense. And I just generally think it's going to make your relationships within your career and your home life more optimistic, but also, again, less realistic. So there might be some things that are happening now that unfold later on, and then you realize like, oh, that actually was like a little bit challenging, or that was turning out to be a little bit different than I thought. I pulled the She Who Yearns, Desiree, yearn, longing, and pine for. Interesting, because I pulled I'm looking at your chart, and you guys have Venus and Virgo in the 5th house opposite Neptune in the 11th house. So you guys could be yearning for some kind of like romantic ideal at this time. The 5th house is quite romantic. It is also a little bit sexual. It has a lot to do with like dating and enjoying people's company, indulging in life. And with the opposition in Neptune, we might feel like our social life or our dating life right now is just on fire, or feels just really like ooey gooey. I feel like that's what I want to say, ooey gooey. There's a yearning for that passion, that desire, that intimacy in your life, especially with the trine to Pluto in the 9th house. You might be more fixated on the vision of what that could be like one day with that person, or how this relationship could evolve, or what you want your passion to look like in the future. There's a little bit more of this fixation energy that comes in with Pluto. And so I only want to say to temper this yearning a little bit with a little bit of realism. We want to enjoy Venus opposite Neptune and Jupiter opposite Mercury. Those are good energies that feel positive, but they also can be unrealistic. They can make us more easily deceived. So just be careful about your dating life if you are starting to see someone new, or if you want to pick up like a new hobby, or something that feels like really like sexy or passionate or anything that you yearn for, just be careful not to over idealize whatever that thing is. I also pulled She Who Prepares, Zenith, formulate, strategize, and devise. I feel like this is the Knight of Pentacles that I pulled earlier, which is telling you guys to plan, to prepare, and that's going to help push the momentum ahead for you, and that you don't have to do this all on a whim. Okay, I'm going to pull one more card for you guys out of this new Oracle deck that I got. So 2 of these decks are new, which is really exciting for me. And then, yeah, we'll wrap up for you guys. So I'm excited for you guys because I think that you are going to be one of the people undergoing the most significant amount of change at this new moon. And again, I see this unfolding over the next 6 months. But you can have a really radical change that occurs pretty much immediately because of the fact that this is in a tight square and if it's hitting a personal planet. If you want to know if it's hitting a personal planet, how do you know that? Well, you kind of have to know a little bit of astrology background. And I explain all of this in my astrology course that's in my membership. It's only $20 a month. If you're interested in joining, you can do so in the link below, the North Node Society. But I cover all of this, how to read your own chart, look at transits, and how to actually see if something's going to impact you and have these massive radical changes like this one could. I pulled the Wisdom card, the Bay Leaf. So you got 2, this is a 22 as well. So 2 in numerology makes me think about relationships and love. And so I do feel like there's going to be something here where you're going to have to use your wisdom or your third eye to really determine the truth of a connection. And I think that it's going to be important for you, whatever kind of connection that is, whether it's friendship, dating, whatever. I think it's going to be important for you to use your wisdom, use your third eye, use your intuition, because with these placements occurring, it's possible to not fully see them in the accurate light. And so your inner wisdom is going to let you know, based off of how you feel, if the way that person presents themselves is true or not. And just remember that Neptune, because it deceives, Neptune is so energetic, so it can't deceive how you feel. Not like emotionally, but intuitively. Like that hunch in your stomach, that feeling that you get about somebody. When you really, really tap into them, that is always true. It's just easily masked by our desire for things to be a certain way and how we can get swept up in emotions. So just kind of be careful about that. So that's what I see for you guys, Taurus and Taurus Rising. If this resonates, please like and comment down below, and I hope you have such a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Gemini and Gemini Risings. So this new moon in Leo is happening in your 3rd house, which whenever I see a new moon happening here, I feel like a lot of change is afoot. And what I feel like is a lot of little change, a lot of movement, a lot of communication, a lot of connecting with people, exchanging ideas or learning new things, traveling to new places. There's this kind of energy of a flurry that occurs. With the new moon being in Leo, I feel like it can also help you better understand yourself and help you grow in confidence. Because sometimes in order to be able to fully see yourself clearly, you have to have yourself mirrored or reflected back by the environment around you. And so I feel like you having this new beginning in your 3rd house is creating this action, this movement, and this connection with people in order for you to reflect and see yourself in a more authentic way, to love yourself for who you are and what you have to offer, and to start to honor your gifts in a way that maybe you haven't before. And I pulled the 3 of Wands, the journey. Exactly, this is the energy that I get. Movement, action, a journey. The Wands are about taking action in our life, taking our ideas, these new beginnings, and making something of them in the world. And the 3 card is this a lot of stimulation and change, just like the moon in the 3rd house. So that's exactly what that feels like for you. However, what's interesting is that you're having this moon make a square to Uranus in your 12th house. The 12th house is such a different energy than the 3rd. It's one of rest. It's one of relaxation, respite, isolation, disconnection. So the square aspect here, I feel like is coming in to say that there is some change that needs to be made to the way that you spend time alone. Does that make sense? especially with this Hermit card. The Hermit card reminds me a lot of the 12th house. It's going within to seek your own truth and understanding who you are by yourself without that mirroring, without anyone communicating, connecting with you. So I feel like you guys have two different things going on. In one sense, you're having the new moon happen in your third house, connecting you more so that you can start this new journey, have this new, these new trips, meet these new people, so you can learn things about yourself. But with the square to Uranus, I feel like what it's doing is it's helping. I feel like there needs to be some change to like how you actually spend time alone, so that you can then integrate the things that you learn and you pick up from other people to understand what you believe out of it and what you don't. Because you can't just have a new moon in the third house, have all this stimulation, receive all this information, and then that's it. You have to digest the information. You have to make sense of the information, and you have to choose and use your discernment to choose which information resonates with you and you identify with and which doesn't. Because people are going to reflect you back to you, but some people are going to do so in a distorted way, and you don't want to accept that. And so the only way that you can integrate your own truth is to have that time with people and then have time alone. And so I feel like this change is for you to spend enough time alone, or time alone in a different way, or self-reflecting or processing in a way that you maybe haven't done so in a while. And sometimes with Geminis, I am a Gemini, so I totally get this. Sometimes with Geminis, there's so much of a desire for stimulation that we can avoid and run from the inner truth, or the silence and the quiet that holds the inner truth within us. It's like we want our minds to always be engaged, but in the 12th house, you're connecting with your soul, your spirit, and you can't do that through the mind. You have to do it through the quiet, the stillness, the presence, and the lack of thought. And so I feel like there needs to be more of that in your life, or a different approach to the way that you do that or achieve that in your life. And so, yes, yeah, I guess that's all I had to say with that. And really, it's crazy because the cards that I pulled along with the Hermit are the Empress and the King of Pentacles. You guys, this is up-leveling energy. The Empress and the King of Pentacles are the two most prosperous and abundant cards in the deck. So what is that saying about you? What it's saying is that once you go out and you connect and you learn more about yourself, and then you take the time to actually process it and integrate it, you will have so much wisdom to offer the world that you will be able to reap rewards tenfold. But if you don't take that time in between to integrate, to process, to understand yourself, you'll be missing that kernel of wisdom that the Empress holds. The Empress is like nature. She isn't really fully of this world or of the spirit world. She's something in between. And so if you're too much in the third house, if you're too much in your mind, if you're too much in the Gemini energy, you're so grounded in this world that you're not connected enough to the spirit world, to that realm of the soul, that you can't gain true access to wisdom and utilize that to help people and to help yourself. It's like you have to have a foot in both worlds. And that is what the Empress does. And so I feel like that's why she can manifest things at the drop of a hat, because not only is she present in this reality, but she's also present in the ethereal realm where you can channel that energy and bring it into an external outward manifestation. And so I feel like you guys are going to finally be able to start doing that, but it's only going to come once you've taken the time to understand yourself and rest and integrate after you're able to go out into the world and collect information. So I know this is kind of like esoteric, but this is just what I'm seeing. This moon in the third house is making a very loose opposition with Saturn in the ninth house. So I think that you guys are honestly, with this Seek Truth card and with Saturn in the ninth house and with Jupiter in the ninth house as well, you guys are really reorganizing and making new relationships with your current beliefs about the world, about yourself, about people around you, about how things work and what's possible for you. You guys are going through a longer transition and change in that area of your life. And with the moon in the third house opposing Saturn in the ninth, it's possible that on your journey here, you might encounter people who challenge your truth. people who don't believe you, people who tell you what to believe, people who are just on totally different wavelengths. And it's going to be up to you to really determine where your truth stands and where their truth stands. To be open enough to hear people out and flexible enough, as a Gemini often is, to be open to changing your perspective when there is something that needs to be changed, but to have enough boundaries and enough borders to be able to know when it's not true for you and when you should not be flexible and you should not change your ideas. I think that's something that is going to come up at this time in terms of your beliefs, your truth, your opinions, and your thoughts versus others. This moon is also making a trine to Chiron in the 11th house. And the 11th house to me has a lot to do with our future goals and ambitions. And I think that's why I pulled the passion card at this moment that I'm talking about this. I feel like you guys are going to have a renewed sense of passion for life after you've gone on this journey and have encountered new people that stimulate your senses and stimulate your mind. As a Gemini or Gemini Rising, you guys love that stimulation. You love those new ideas. You love those new concepts and communication. And that's going to reinvigorate your passions and your goals for life. And I think that is also going to translate into the Empress and this King of Pentacles cards that are saying that you're going to start manifesting some physical things, some money. You're going to manifest money because of this passion, because you're following your goals and you're learning more, doing more, and understanding more about yourself and about your passions. I also pulled the Manara card, She Who Waits, Patience, Waiting, and Determination. Interesting. What does that have to do with? Let me pull one or two more of these cards for you. Ooh, I know what that means. You guys. You guys have Jupiter in the 9th opposing Mercury in the 3rd, just like Saturn is opposing this moon. What this means is that there is this push and pull between focusing on your long-term goals, your vision, how you're going to bring that to life, versus the things that are in your immediate reality. The people, the journey that you're on, the people that you're meeting, the things that you're learning. These things are at odds because Jupiter is opposing Mercury. So these things are not able to, they need to have some kind of meeting in the middle. So you can't focus too much on the immediate and what you're learning and observing now. You can't focus too much on that long-term goal. And I think as a Gemini, and with the new moon here in the 3rd house, there can be a predisposition to focus on kind of immediacy. I want to learn this immediately, and then I move on to the next thing. I want to have this experience right now, and then I move on to the next thing. It's like this insatiable desire to consume knowledge and experience. And I feel like with the Jupiter in the 9th house, it's telling you to slow down and play the long game, to be patient, to wait, to know what you're going after, to use the things that you're absorbing and feeling excited about in the 3rd house, to use that to break it down and actually put it back together in a way that is supporting some long-term vision, some long-term goal. I feel like it's saying to play the end game, to see how this can all fit into the end game. And so I think this patience and waiting card is saying that. I also feel like it's saying that the Empress and the King of Pentacles, this receiving finances, this is coming, but I feel like maybe the wait card is telling you it's not coming right now, because whenever you're on a journey with the new moon at the 3rd house, it's a journey. You're not at the end yet. The end is receiving, the end is the wealth, the abundance, and you're just starting the journey. So you might find that at the end of the 6 months, you've discovered a lot about yourself, but again, you're playing the end game. So some of that big money, that wealth, that big abundance might come much later than 6 months. Not that you won't get success now, but it just might not be as quick as you were hoping. Interesting. I also pulled the Nemesis card. She Who Avenges, Revenge, Outcomes, and Justice. So I kind of feel like that goes along with what I was just saying, where I was talking about how you're playing the end game and you might not get all the wealth that you're really hoping to get right now, but this is saying that there's justice that will come full circle. So that even though it's not happening right now, in the end, it really will occur. And if you can just have faith and trust, it's going to work out for you. There's one more thing I want to talk about in the astrology. You guys have Venus and Virgo in your first house opposing Neptune in your 10th house. There might be some aspects here of your home life, of your career life, that you lack clarity around. You might be optimistic about it, but you might not have the full, I guess, awareness of the direction that things are going. So basically with Venus in the 4th house, I honestly feel like this is a really great time for you to be like spending time with family, to be nesting, to creating strong emotional foundations in your life. But with the opposition with Neptune in the 10th, I feel like you guys might not see how your home and your career are going to progress together. There is some disconnect in one or both areas of your life in your home and your career. So you might feel like you are encountering people in your career and things are kind of coming in for you, but maybe it's not going to end up taking you where you initially think it's going to go. Or maybe things are happening in your home and in your emotional foundation that you feel like certain shifts are happening, but then it ends up not quite panning out how you thought. There is some kind of like distortion of reality that happens when Venus is opposing Neptune. And with the trine of Pluto in the 8th, I feel like this can also really have a lot to do with either our investments, like our home investments, or our again, emotional foundation, because the 8th house has a lot to do with some of the more negative emotions that we experience. Things like insecurity, loss, trauma, all those kind of negative emotions are really wrapped up in the 8th house. So with Venus in the 4th making a trine to Pluto in the 8th, it might be a really good time to heal this. And some of this might be transmuted in a really positive way. But it's still like you might like lack some clarity. Maybe you feel like, oh, I healed this already and like I've moved on. And then you see like a month later that this issue has returned and you maybe didn't make as much progress as you wanted to. So there's some aspect here of not having full clarity that is going to come through in terms of either your emotions, your home, or your career. So that is what I'm seeing for you guys, Gemini or Gemini Rising. If you enjoyed this, please like and comment down below. I always read the comments. They mean so much to me. And if you guys are interested in learning about astrology, how to interpret your own chart, look at your own transits, and do what I'm doing right now, then you guys can do that for yourself. And you can see how it impacts your personal planets, which actually makes such a difference in how this translates into your real life. For example, if this moon in the 3rd house was conjunct my natal Venus, this is going to also mean a completely new beginning in terms of relationships, or in terms of, especially communicating relationships, or in terms of your finances. So there's just little ways that you can actually see how this would play out in a very tangible, realistic way for you. So if you're interested in learning how to do that for yourself, you can join the North Node Society, and the link is in the description box below. I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Cancer. So Cancer and Cancer Rising, this new moon in Leo is happening in your 2nd house of finances. And even though in traditional astrology and ancient Hellenistic astrology, they say that the 2nd house is like negative, I kind of feel like I like the 2nd house because it has so much to do with money. But to be honest, I just pulled a negative card, so we'll see how this plays out. I just pulled the lack card, which has a lot to do with a lack of finances, feeling like you guys are not where you want to be financially, honestly. And because the moon is opposing Saturn in the 8th, even though it's a loose opposition, you might be feeling like this lack of finances is really coming in for you strong, building up to this moon. So you might find that you have more debt occurring. So when the Saturn's transiting the 8th house, especially opposing the moon like this, it's like, oh, well, I didn't realize that I had to pay for that bill. Or like, my car just broke down, now I have to pay for that. And it's like these things that you own, that you love, are actually kind of a source of trouble in a sense. And so, yeah, I feel like you guys might find that you have a little bit more going out than coming in at the time leading up to this new moon. However, what I do feel like is going to happen over the next 6 months for you guys is a really big change in your finances. Actually, no, sorry. I do think that your finances will flourish more over the next 6 months. I do think that this, whatever you're feeling building up to this new moon and kind of on it a little bit, where your finances are going out, that I don't think is something that's going to translate over the next 6 months as much. I think it's more so going to be about building from a place of feeling lack.
So don't be disappointed. Don't be sad. This moon is also making a tight square to Uranus in your 11th house. That's where the changes are coming in. Tight square within 1 degree. We're all going to be feeling this very intensely. If it's hitting a personal planet, wow, your guys' life is going to change so much in terms of your friendships or your long-term career goals. So if you want to know if it's hitting a personal planet, then I suggest checking out the North Node Society membership, which I linked down below. I have an entire astrology course on there, and I basically will walk you through how to interpret your chart and how to see where these transits are and how it's impacting your personal planets. So if you want to know that, that's going to be very helpful for you in interpreting all my videos moving forward, because if it hits a personal planet, the amount of change you're going to experience is incredible. I've been able to predict when I'm going to get, like when I got this house, I predicted that. I knew when I was going to have more followers on YouTube because of eclipses hitting my sun. Like, anyway, so much is possible with that. Okay, so as I said, this moon is making a square to Uranus in your 11th house of friendships or long-term goals. So I think you guys over the next 6 months, and especially over these next 2 weeks, are going to have some major impacting moments happen in your friendships where you realize you want to have shifts. Like, those people aren't good for me anymore, or that vision that I had for my life is no longer working anymore. I need a change. I need a change now. I'm sick of the status quo. I'm sick of feeling stuck. I'm sick of this debt coming in. I need to do something different with my life. And I feel like this could have a lot to do with your career and goals, but it could be friends, because the 11th house is equally that, and networking and connections. You might be realizing, I need to meet different people in order to find a different career. I need to connect with different people, or make these different networking or friendships or groups or whatever you have to do in order to start expanding your horizons financially, which is where this central focus is for you, is on your finances. I feel like you guys are probably feeling that pressure with the opposition with Saturn, and you're like, I need to do something different in my day-to-day life with the people I interact with. And it's through friends. It's through not just friends, but it's actually friends of friends that people meet, like make the most connections that serve them. So this is in terms of finding a relationship, which is not the focus here. Or it's in terms of finding like the next career choice or the next job. It's like through those friends of friends. And so this square with Uranus is telling you to go out, to socialize, to make different choices, or have a different vision, or have different friend groups and things like that surrounding you, so that you can start to manifest the resources that you need, with this moon being in the second house. Okay, why aren't any cards falling out? It's really annoying. Okay, I'm just going to pull some cards. It's just as effective. Okay, a lot of these cards are kind of intense, you guys. What are you going through right now? What are you going through, Cancer? I mean, Saturn and Jupiter is moving through your 8th house, and Pluto's in your 7th house. So you're definitely going through a lot of rebirth this year. Especially now that Saturn is retrograde. Saturn being retrograde kind of asks us to do the inner work that we put on pause when we're starting to achieve things externally. We're like, hell yeah, like I'm getting this, I'm doing this, I'm so busy. And then when Jupiter moves retrograde, it's like, okay, we gave you those blessings. Now you have to become the vibrational match as well. You have to do the internal work to hold those blessings. And so with Jupiter moving through the 8th, you might feel like it's time to kind of step up to the plate to become that person that you need to be, who can attract those kind of finances, who can attract those kinds of friendships, those relationships, who can build up those skills and those networking abilities in order to achieve a new financial beginning for yourself. But with Jupiter opposing Mercury, you might be overly optimistic about how you can do that. Or you might not have like a clear, not that it's not clear, but yeah, it can basically make things so that we're just feeling like it's going to go a lot easier than it is going to go. It's not that you can't do it. It's just, it's probably going to be a little bit harder than you expect. Ooh, She Who Surprises. Surprise, discovery, and revelation. Ooh, I love that for you guys. So I also love Uranus transiting the 11th house, because it likes to be in the 11th house. Uranus is Aquarius energy. The 11th house is Aquarius. And so Uranus and Aquarius are both associated with like genius ideas, divine insight, like a flash flood of thoughts kind of coming to you and just giving you, yeah, insight into what's to come and what you should do and things like that. And so with this square to Uranus in the 11th, you might get these like sudden downloads of what to do. And even Jupiter opposing Mercury, even though it can make you overly idealistic, it can also give you these incredible ideas that are coming in from the depths of your soul that's trying to help you change. That's trying to help you finally make some big adjustments to your life to create a new financial beginning for yourself. And so you might get some of these like brand new ideas that are coming out of nowhere that feel really exciting to you. And as I said that, I pulled the trust card. So there needs to be some degree of trusting that when these new ideas come in, that you can pursue them and that there is some kind of possibility that lies beyond them. Because the universe does not give us ideas, passions, desires just to fuck with us. It gives us those ideas because it wants us to take action on them and to trust that we have the ability to manifest through our own power what we desire. And with the moon in the second house, I feel like you're changing your relationship to your ability to manifest. It's like you're understanding that in a new way. You're understanding how you contribute to it, to the lack of what you have in your life, or to the abundance of what you have in your life, and both of them. And I think that deeper understanding of yourself and your contribution to your external reality is coming to the forefront right now. Let me pull one. Oh, that's a lot. Let me pull one more of this card, and then I'm going to talk about what else is going on in the astrology. For some reason in your group, no cards want to come out. Okay, cleansing. Interesting. Cleansing. The lemon card. What in your life do you need to cleanse? Okay, let's talk about the trine that's happening to Chiron in the 10th house. So I feel like ultimately these shifts that you're having about either your friendship groups, your networking, your long-term goals, whatever that is, that you're changing in order to create more finances, is definitely going to impact your long-term legacy and career and life direction in a very positive way. I feel like it's going to heal you in that area. If you've had setbacks, if you've had careers or things like that have felt heavy, that have held you down, that don't feel like they support you, if you've had authority figures in your life that have told you you're not good enough, or that have made you feel bad, especially like your parents growing up, if they weren't that support system that you needed, or if they somehow contributed to your own insecurities, those things are going to start to heal as you make changes to your network, to your long-term goals. I don't know how, I don't know why, but they are connected via trine. And so there is some healing going on in that area. So maybe it's now that you're making like a new vision for yourself, and you're making new choices, you start to build up some of that self-confidence, or some of the finances, or both. And it kind of allows you to release maybe some old stories your parents told you, or people told you, or you told yourself growing up about who you are, what you deserve, what you're capable of, and anything like that. You guys also have Venus, and you know what? I think that also has to do with this cleansing energy. I feel like it's you cleansing of things in the past, and because this is a 2 and a 5 on here, I think that this could somehow also be related to your relationships, because that equals 7, and the 7th house in astrology is your relationships, and you guys have Pluto moving through the 7th house. So I do feel like relationships are undergoing, again, a long-term metamorphosis for you guys. And this means, dating like 4 different people. I mean, it doesn't have to be that specifically, but you going through multiple relationships that form you, that change you, that help you realize who you want to be and who you don't want to be in partnerships. Like a very long-term, slow transition into a new way of being in partnerships. And so I feel like this card can have something to do with this, especially because Venus in Virgo in your 3rd house is trining Pluto in the 7th. So I feel like you guys might have a realization at this time about some of those patterns. And I think that's probably what this card is also about as well. is maybe some relationship patterns that have come up for you are going to continue to come up and be revealed bit by bit more and more. However, Venus is also opposing Neptune in the ninth house. So we might actually have some things come in more as like intuitive downloads and feelings rather than like, oh, this is how I am in relationships. Like, let me change that. I feel like some of this stuff that you might realize are more emotionally based, intuitively based. Because with Venus opposing Neptune, we actually tend to lack clarity around that area. So I feel like in general, your analytical mind right now, with this opposition with Neptune, is not to be trusted. Do not make decisions that are super important right now. I feel like it's going to make things over idealistic or somehow skewed. Maybe you see things as possibly more negative than they are with this opposition with the Sun and Saturn, and feeling like there's some kind of lack in your life. You might distort that reality and see things as worse than they are or as better than they are, which is more typical with Venus and Neptune. So I feel like, again, there can be these kind of like intuitive hits, these intuitive realizations that is going to help you cleanse or have like a little bit of a, I guess, I just feel like it's going to help you in your relationships to have a little bit of a cleanse in them, if that makes sense. I also pulled the Judgment card and the Seven of Wands defense. What's going on, you guys? You guys got a lot of negative tarot cards. The Five of Pentacles, the Judgment, and the Seven of Wands. I feel like you guys are just not feeling that great with these cards here. And to me, judgments are about making radical shifts and decisions where we get to a point where we can't really continue to do the things that we were doing because we're going to put ourselves in an early grave. We're going to go crazy. Like, this is the moment of reckoning. This is the moment of tallying up what we've done so far and where it's led us, and realizing can't fucking do that anymore. So with the square to Uranus, I feel like if you have had any like combative relationships with people, especially friendships, if that's what's coming through with this card, it's saying it's time to like either cut those people out or make some kind of massive shift in that area of your life. And I think that's actually going to lead to more stability in your life, more internal stability, more self-satisfaction, and maybe even financial stability. If it's not that, if it's not you like fighting other people, this can all be internal things that are happening, especially in regards to this feeling of lack. I definitely feel like it's some kind of feeling of financial lack, or feeling like you don't have some kind of stability in your life that you're wanting. So with the Seven of Wands, I think that you're going to need to work on being like not defending this old way of thinking and old way of being. You know, with the Five of Pentacles, it can get kind of addicting to be negative. Without us being conscious of it, it can feel like these thoughts are so easy to recycle that our brain doesn't want to let us go, because our body is kind of like addicted to the adrenaline, to the cortisols, to the stress. And so this can be like an internal combat that's happening that you need to put an end to, and you need to like view things differently. So that's another possibility of this. Honestly, I'm not really totally sure about these cards. I mean, I gave you what I thought it could mean, but I'm going to let you guys also decide for yourselves. What do you think the Five of Pentacles, the Judgment, and the Seven of Wands mean for you in your path in creating stability and through change of your friends or your goals? Okay, that's what I see for you guys, Cancer. I feel like that was a long one. So if you enjoyed it, please like and comment down below. And if you want to join the North Node Society and read astrology, your own chart for yourself, then that's also linked down below. I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, up next we have Leo and Leo Rising. So for you guys, this new moon in Leo is happening in your first house of self. I guess I'll take these because they flipped over. Which is honestly a really, really big deal. Whenever the new moon happens in your house, it's giving you a little bit of an emotional reset. And I do think that this is going to create like this reset that's happening for you in your life and your identity and your way of being and every essence of who you are is happening because you're making a change in your career, or you're making a change in how you relate to authority figures in your life or authority figures in your career, bosses, managers, or maybe they are changing. And the way that they interact with you is allowing you to have a new beginning in your life. So there is some element there of a shift happening with like authority figures or work or career or business or whatever, or your legacy if you're retired, some type of legacy that you've been maybe desiring to create. There needs to be some shift there, or there will be some shift there. Either something happening to you or you instigating that change. Oh my gosh, I just said legacy, you guys. I pulled the 10 of Pentacles. That reminds me so much of the 10th house. I do feel like you guys are having some strong finances coming in. It's so interesting. I pulled the Devil card, which is about us holding ourselves back. Right after the Devil, I pulled the card, the 9 of Pentacles and the 10 of Pentacles, which are all about creating a really solid foundation of a practical life, a stable life, but also a really wealthy and abundant life. Feeling very prosperous, feeling like we've put a lot of effort into something and we finally have seen it grow. Like this is like a garden that is overflowing with flowers. And you spent so much time toiling that soil. But the Devil card to me is saying that you almost can't just access that. Why do I keep pulling this card? You know what? I keep pulling this card. It says Strength because the Strength card in tarot has a lion on it and is associated with Leo season, and you are Leo and this new moon is in Leo, and so I think that's why I keep pulling it. Anyway, I feel like this Devil card that is standing in front of the 9 and 10 of Pentacles is telling you that this is kind of like a doorway. You can access the 9 and 10 of Pentacles whenever you want, but you are closing the door on yourself. And so it's up to you to decide when to actually let yourself believe that you can have anything that you want. Or you are like getting way too much in your head and like worrying about stuff way too much. This Devil energy is always us getting in our own way and feeling like there's a restriction when there's really no restriction. You guys have so much abundance, so much at your fingertips. There's no restriction. I pulled the Purification card and the Agreement card. Interesting, because there is some stuff happening with relationships, and that is where the restriction might feel like it's happening for you. It's like the abundance is not restricted, but because this moon is in a loose opposition with Saturn in the 7th, you might feel like you are being restricted by other people, or your relationships and especially your intimate partnerships feel like heavier or more restricted. So it's like your ability to access like abundance and prosperity is untethered. It's you're able to just access it when you want. You have that right there at your fingertips. You just have to believe that you can have it and that you want it and that you go after it, and then you have confidence to work hard towards it. The other thing about the Devil card is it's not just about us holding ourselves back. It's also related to Capricorn energy and us putting in the work. So it can have a lot to do with having changes to your work and putting in work after you make those changes, and that is going to lead to some extreme financial abundance. And because there's again a square to Uranus in the 10th house, I'm seeing all this coming in around shifts around your work or your authority figures at work. So yeah, so going back to what I was saying, the Saturn in the 7th house might make it feel like sometimes people are not on your side, and or like you have to put a lot of effort into relationships, and it kind of takes away from your ability to feel free and to feel confident and to feel like yourself. It's like other people are weighing you down. Not always, like it can be anyone in your life, but there's some other person in your life that you're intimate or close with that is like a source of that heavy energy. But you guys also have Jupiter there, so that this person is also a source of your internal growth because Jupiter is retrograde, and they're actually you're also receiving blessings there. So even though Saturn is bringing the heaviness, Jupiter is also there bringing some of the growth opportunities, some of the opportunities for optimism and happiness as well. So it's very intermingled. It's a lot of emotion kind of going on at once between you and your relationships. This moon is trining Chiron in the 9th house. So I feel like once you start to make those shifts to your career, or once those people and authority figures make shifts, you are going to experience a lot more optimism when it comes to believing in yourself. I feel like that's going to kind of lift the veil where you're not able to fully see yourself clearly. It's going to lift that off and allow you to see yourself for all the magic that you have inside. And a new moon being in your first house it just wants you to see your own internal magic. This external reality of having the 9 and 10 of Pentacles, it doesn't matter. I mean, the real gift is you knowing how amazing you are inside and the abundance that you have from within. And I do feel like that's coming through for you. I do think that's coming through for you when you start to make changes to your career. You guys have Jupiter in the 7th opposing Mercury and Leo in the first house. So if you are encountering some people at this time, some relationships, you might feel like, okay, yeah, like this is good, things are going well. But you also, and so you might be feeling more social, connecting more with other people, but you also might not be able to see with full clarity how that relationship is impacting you. How that relationship could be also kind of a source of pain or a little bit heavy. Or you might feel like it is, but you don't see quite its impact all the time, if that makes sense. Like at this time, you might have been feeling like leading up to it, this relationship has been a little bit of a source of pain, but then on this day, with Jupiter opposing Mercury, it kind of like alleviates that and makes you think more optimistically, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like you have like a second of like reprieve in a way in your own mind about what that relationship is and how you're feeling with it and how it's affecting you. Okay, I pulled She Who Guides, New Path, Guide, and Renewal. I do feel like you guys are having a really big renewal here, it is a new path unfolding. It's a new moon in your first house. It means it's a new beginning in who you are and your life path and your direction, especially with Uranus in the 10th house being so strongly related to our path in the world and our external reality in terms of career. And so, yeah, I'm excited for you guys. I'm excited to see how that unfolds. And you guys have Venus and Virgo in the second house opposing Neptune. So you guys could be maybe a little bit more optimistic at this time about your finances or even about your self-confidence. Even though I was talking about this devil energy, it's possible you could be oscillating between feeling like you're on top of the world and feeling like you don't have your shit together at all, which is very human. But sometimes, yeah, with Venus in the second house, we might be feeling better. We might be feeling like, okay, like I got this. Like I'm doing good at my job. Like I'm making good money. Things are going well. But with the opposition with Neptune, it's like, don't get like cocky. Don't spend too much. Don't think that you have more than you do, because there's a over optimism that just like you had with Jupiter opposing Mercury. It's like you're not able to fully see things as clearly. You could be more easily deceived when it comes to spending money or connecting with people in a really vulnerable way. You could just have rose-colored glasses on. And so, yeah, just be kind of careful with your finances at this time is all I'm trying to say. And Venus is also making a trine to Pluto in the 6th house. So I feel like if you are continuing to put in effort towards your work, you're going to manifest some crazy money. I mean, I already pulled the 9 and 10 of Pentacles, so I feel like that's already happening for you, which is amazing. I'm very excited about that. I pulled the Purification card, and it has a Gemini sign on it. I kind of feel like this is purifying your mind, so maybe this is helping you leave behind some of this devil energy. Maybe this devil energy is honestly from the past. Maybe you used to be really hard on yourself, you used to be really caught up in really bad habits, and you weren't focusing on much maybe besides work. And so with this devil card and this new beginning in your first house, I feel like, and also with this purification, I feel like it's saying you can be having a cleansing or a purification of your mindset so that you are releasing some of those toxic thought patterns that just felt really heavy, and you're stepping more into your authentic light, your authentic energy. And with this agreement card, I feel like you guys can be feeling a little bit more optimistic with Jupiter opposing Mercury in your first, a little bit more optimistic about how agreeable your relationship is right now. Even though the days leading up to this with Saturn opposing the Sun, it might have actually felt like it wasn't helping your relationships. But it's almost like things are feeling like they're going to turn a new leaf with this agreement card. Like maybe you're finally seeing eye to eye with someone. It's like, can I trust them? And it's just feeling like a lighter energy. So That is what I'm seeing for you guys, Leo. If this resonates, please like and comment down below. If you're interested in learning about astrology and how to interpret this all for yourself, then you can join the North Node Society, which is linked down below. And I hope you have such a beautiful new moon. Bye. All right, up next we have Virgo Rising and Virgo Sun. For you guys, this new moon, Leo, is happening in your 12th house, which I often associate with a period of rest, reflection. Often there is some element of letting go that occurs with the 12th house, which is an interesting mix for a new moon, because new moons are normally about building something. And so let's just see what the rest has to say. So this moon is making a square to Uranus in your 9th house. You guys are having a total change in perspective right now. And this is going to be necessary to help you guys grow. So the first card that I pulled for you guys was the Six of Wands, which says victory. And looking at the astrology, I kind of feel like this is associated with the fact that Venus right now is in your sign, transiting your first house. So whenever you have Venus in your sign, this is a time when we start to get more recognition and more victory in our lives. We start to get some things come full circle that we've been really desiring, and I think that it gives us the opportunity to get recognition and accolades and money and things that we've that are kind of like the gifts of effort that we put in prior. And so that seems really positive, especially with the trine to Pluto in the 5th house. So Venus in your first is trining Pluto in your 5th. The 5th house is a lot about this energy of what we've put into things so far. And this is also kind of the 5th and the 11th house are both houses that build over time. So our efforts, the money there, it starts to come through when it's activated with a planet like this. And so I feel like Pluto in the 5th house is giving you guys a larger transformation within your dating life, within you guys pursuing your passions and hobbies, and possibly even transforming how you view children and just pleasure and joy and fulfillment in your life in general. And you going after and pursuing things that you've been enjoying as of late is actually part of where this success is going to come from for you. So if you've been pursuing some creative project, or you've been dating this new person, or you've been going on this trip that feels exciting, somehow that's going to lead to you feeling like your life is victorious in this moment. So that seems really positive. However, Venus in Virgo in your 1st house is also making an opposition to Neptune in your 7th house. To me, this is saying that there is going to be some kind of lack of clarity around you and your relationships at this time. So maybe normally you have, I feel like the Virgo readings I've been doing as of late have been having really positive relationships. That's because you guys had Jupiter jump into your 7th house with Pisces, right? It popped into Pisces. Now it's moving retrograde and it's back in Aquarius, and now it's back in your 6th house. So for a second there, you guys had a lot of blessings starting to come through in terms of your partnerships. Now it's moving back into the work sector and asking you to be more diligent again, and saying that the effort that you're putting into your work is going to come back to you if you do the responsible things now. But so now that Jupiter has kind of moved back into your 6th house, you just have Neptune hanging out by itself in your 7th house, and it's opposing Venus in your 1st. So you guys might feel like that really great feeling that you had about your relationship is still there. And I do think that it is to an extent. However, I also think that there's a lack of clarity there that you won't maybe be able to fully see and right now until this opposition has cleared up. When Venus is opposing Neptune, especially along the 1st and 7th axis, it's creating some kind of like delusion or distortion of reality within our relationships or within our money. And so there's going to be some aspect of this in your life where you're not able to see some part of your relationship with the clarity that you need to. So in terms of making like big relationship decisions, I would definitely hold off on that for now. I'm not saying that you're going to be disappointed or anything like that. That is a possibility. All I'm saying is that the truth is more veiled at this time, and we're prone to seeing things in a very idealistic perspective.
And this could even be true for work as well, because Jupiter is in the 6th house opposing Mercury in the 12th. So Jupiter opposing Mercury has a similar energy to Venus opposing Neptune. It can idealize things, it can make us really optimistic and see things with the glass half full. But sometimes that can make it difficult for us to get a full reality check of how long something takes in work or how much effort it takes. And so with Jupiter in the 6th opposing Mercury in the 12th, we might be overestimating how much we can get done in work, how productive we can be, and how much time we need for rest. Sometimes we can, just feel like we can get everything done in a day, and then we look at our checklist and we've got like 3 things done. That's the kind of energy with Jupiter opposing Mercury. Okay, so it's kind of weird that I just like skipped over your whole moon. I'm going to go back to that because I just felt really drawn to talk about that for a second. So what's interesting after this victory card that I pulled is I have the 2 of Wands, which says planning. Usually this is something that comes before the victory, but I feel like you guys are actually experiencing the victory now with your Venus in the 1st house. And so I think you're in the energy right now of feeling like things are good, feeling like things are flowing. However, when this moon comes and there's a tight square to Uranus in the 9th house, I feel like it's asking you to change your perspective, to change your plans. I think that's why this planning card is coming through. I think when I look at the 9th house and Uranus there's a disruptive energy in our long-term vision for our life, because the 9th house has this kind of like all-encompassing, expansive view of the world. And it's able to integrate things from the past, from the present, and the future, and map it all out into an understanding of our life. And so when there's Uranus going through there and disrupting that, it's almost like we're able to make sense of the past in a different way and calculate different ideals for the future based off of new information or ideas that we're receiving in the present. So I feel like you guys might be having realizations now about what's going on inside of you from your past, especially with the moon being in the 12th house, which is often associated with things that have been suppressed from childhood or suppressed from the past. I feel like those things could start over the next 6 months to come to the surface and present new information to you that is going to shift your focus about your future and create different plans. I think that this is a long-term thing, so you might not feel this immediately, but with this square to Uranus, there can be also these instant divine downloads about what these things are. So even though the moon itself and all the things from the past will probably take the full 6 months to come up to the surface to be reanalyzed, I also feel like the divine downloads about what to change in your plan could come before that or could come instantly. So the timeline here could vary for some of these elements. So I hope that's making sense, because I know it's kind of like an abstract thing to talk about. But I absolutely feel like whatever changes you're making are going to lead you to a lot of fulfillment. I also feel like you're going to start to have a lot of healing occur because this moon is making a trine to Chiron in your 8th house. So I feel like some of these realizations and a different understanding of your past is going to also allow you to release some of the heaviness of it, some of the things that you might have suppressed or that you might have not fully understood about yourself and possibly about your relationships. So yeah, I feel like you guys are going to be able to make different decisions moving forward, make different plans, and also heal from some of those things that are coming up and reach a sense of true fulfillment. I also pulled this Strength card, and I think that this Strength card comes in with the fact that you have Saturn also moving through your 6th house, and it's making a loose opposition with this moon. The Strength card asks for a lot of self-compassion. It says literally compassion on there, and a lot of strength, obviously. And I feel like having Saturn moving through your 6th house and challenging this moon can bring up some insecurities. It can bring up the aspects, especially as a Virgo, of ourselves where we can be extremely self-critical, where we can not give ourselves that compassion and understanding that we need. However, with Jupiter there, I think it's going to make having self-compassion easier than it would if Saturn was in the 6th house alone. But I do think it's a time when we're going to be more prone to being self-critical. And this is a longer cycle. This is going to last until Saturn transitions into Pisces or into your 7th house. You're undergoing like a metamorphosis in the area of your work. You're growing up and maturing in the way that you show up to your life in a day-to-day routine, the way that you show up to your work, to work for a company, for colleagues, the way that you are of service to other people and take care of your physical body. The universe is putting you through a longer chapter of refinement in this area of your life. And sometimes when you are learning something new or redefining that area of your life, there's stumbling, there's like lots of starts and stops or inconsistencies or I think just trouble in general, keeping everything exactly in the ideal way that a Virgo would like to, this ideal of perfection. And so I think the Strength card is coming through to say to yourself that it's time to embrace a lot of self-compassion as you're moving through and learning some of these new things and maturing in that area of your life. Okay, so I guess I talked about all the astrology. Wow, that went really fast. Let's talk about some of the cards that we're seeing here. Okay, this makes so much sense. Okay, so the first card that I pulled is She Who Calms, Stillness, Purity, and Quiet. That is exactly what a new moon in the 12th house is. It's the ability for us to come back to ourselves and to drop into this very still place. The 12th house is the house where we are spending time alone. We are integrating things that we have learned. We're assessing things from the past. It's a lot of internal development and exploration, and you can only do that in the quiet, in the stillness, alone. And so I feel like this card is really illustrating the fact that in order to be able to have that clear vision about what this new plan is for your life and making shifts about your beliefs around life and your beliefs about your life direction. This can be in any aspect, but I kind of feel like it's almost like the totality of your life, not just one area. I feel like your general life direction is going to shift, or your beliefs about your life is going to shift. But in order to do that, you first have to be able to process these things from the past, process these things that you are in the current, honestly. And in order to do that, you have to have stillness. So the moon in the 12th is saying to create and carve out time for that stillness. And that stillness is what is going to bring you clarity, because the next card I pulled is She Who Knows, Wisdom, Clarity, and Resolution. So basically, our ability to be still is going to be linked to our ability to hear the divine, because the divine is not loud. It's a small whisper. It's our intuition. It's a feeling, and it's not going to try to push through your normal daily activities just to be noticed sometimes, but for the most part, it lies dormant and it asks for you to open up to it, to receive it. It's not going to come knocking. You have to have the door open and it will walk right through. So I think what that's saying is the wisdom is literally lying dormant within you, and you just have to create that space in order to access it. The next card I pulled is She Who Brings Light, Serenity, and a Beacon. Interesting. So I kind of feel like the beacon here is the internal light from within is going to act as like a new beacon of hope for you. And with this square to Uranus in the 9th house, I actually feel like this new plan for you is going to feel like that beacon of hope. It's going to reignite this passion within you about where your life is going, and it's going to feel like you're invigorated by this new direction or this new insight or these new beliefs that you have. It's also possible to square to Uranus in the 9th house that this can involve a change in location, especially by traveling or living abroad or by studying something new. It doesn't just have to be a change in plan and perspective, but I do kind of think that even if you do travel or study something new, I feel like it's going to be because you had a change in perspective about something or a realization about kind of where that plan is going to go in your life. And so I feel like all those new changes that are coming are going to lift off this load where you might have felt like you didn't really know where you were going, or maybe you just, I don't know, it's like maybe you just didn't feel like fully grounded in the vision that you had, or you didn't have a full complete idea. And I feel like you're starting to get more of that picture, and it feels like it feels good. It feels like the light is coming in to light your path now. It's not so dark, it's not so obscured. I also pulled the card Regeneration, and it has the sign of Aries on it. Interesting. And it looks like it has this kind of like science, like beaker thing, but like tilted to the side, which I feel like is probably for plants actually. But regeneration. I mean, I feel like any kind of Uranus square is bringing about some aspect of regeneration here. This reminds me a lot of like lizard's tails. You know, when you cut the lizard tail off and it can just grow back, it just regenerates its limb. I feel like sometimes when there's a change in plan, a change of perspective, we're losing something. We're losing what used to be and we're regenerating a new version of it. So that tail is going to be, it's a different tail. So even though it's still a tail, it's still a plan for your life, and there's probably a lot of overlap and similarities and similar ingredients, it's still a new tail or a new plan. And so I feel like this ability to regenerate is something that you guys are really good at, because you are ruled by Mercury, which is a very changeable planet, and it can adapt quite easily to situations. And so I feel like you really tapping in your ability to adapt and let go of the old plan and adopt something new is going to be so beneficial. Like this innate skill that you have is really going to come to the forefront and bring you a lot of prosperity, because on the top of the card there's a number 17, and in numerology that's an 8. And an 8 is all about financial abundance in this world, material abundance and success. And I feel like this is a message from the universe telling you that this is not your last pivot. This is just the beginning. However, because there is a pivot occurring, it's basically saying that the more that you can kind of ride the waves of these changes and allow yourself to regenerate like you naturally have the ability to do, the more you're going to start manifesting these really powerful realities that feel very exciting to you. I also pulled the ritual card, Sweet Corn, and this has a number 10 on it. So I feel like this is actually pointing a little bit towards like routine, and I think that this can have something to do with Jupiter in the 6th house and Saturn in the 6th house, because the 10 on it reminds me a lot of like the 10th house in Capricorn energy, which is related to Saturn in the 6th. And I feel like what this is saying is that there's a need for you guys to create like some kind of exciting and heart-centered routine in your day, but also something that feels very responsible, that is building you towards like your longer term vision or your legacy. I think that is what I was talking about with that longer cycle that's happening with Saturn and in the 6th house, this maturation process occurring around the way that you take care of your health, the way that you structure your day, and the way that you show up in your work. And so maybe this is a good time, as you're taking some time to be still, to allow yourself to kind of look at that area of your life and see what's working and what isn't, to assess how you're doing in this long-term cycle, because it's always good to kind of check in and add awareness to that in order to make changes if there does need to be changes made. Okay, so if you guys are interested in learning about astrology and being able to see if this moon will hit a personal planet and drastically affect your life, then I highly suggest checking out the North Node Society. I have an entire astrology course there, and the link is down below if you want to have a look at what that's about. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy this, please like and comment down below, and I hope you have such a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Libra and Libra Rising. So for you guys, this new moon in Leo is happening in your 11th house of friendships, as well as your long-term goals for the future. And your connection to groups of people who have like-minded interests as you. So this would be people who, like if you love yoga, for example, like I just started to do aerial yoga more consistently, and I installed a hammock in my garage. So aerial yoga, like me hanging out with people who do that and making connections and friendships with people like that, and maybe even like friends in high places, marketing myself to kind of people in high places type of thing. That would be what a new moon in the 11th house could bring into my life. Some more of those kind of connections. This moon in the 11th hoe is making a square to Uranus in the 8th house. It's very interesting. Sorry, the cards are not falling out today. It's kind of driving me nuts. I guess I feel like today I'm just not enjoying shuffling as I normally do. Okay. You guys are getting a lot of cloud cards. And yeah, okay. Interesting. So I definitely feel like you guys are dealing with a lot of stuff in the mind, and since this moon is making a square to Uranus in the 8th house, I'm wondering, clarity. Yeah, you guys are getting clarity around your relationships, and I feel like it's around some like mental like thoughts and patterns that you have within your relationships. Let me show you this. You have so many swords cards, which are all about thoughts, intellect, new ideas, and curiosity. You guys also have the 10 of Pentacles, which is a really great card in terms of building abundance in your life and stability. And I feel like it's showing a full manifestation of something into a physical form that you've been working on for a long time. So I'm curious how all this fits together. So yeah, with this moon making a square to Uranus in the 8th, I feel like you guys are having a lot of clarity and realizations about your mental patterns in your relationships. And the stuff that honestly, like, you probably don't want to have anymore, because the 8th house often stores things that are negative. I also pulled the Vitality card. And so I feel like this is a really wonderful opportunity to start with these realizations, to start to release. Weird, I just pulled the same cards for the other group. Let me pull one more to see if it's different. It's literally the exact same card. What is going on? Alright, fine. Fine, I'll take it. Okay. So strange. So strange. You and Virgos are having a lot of overlap with these women here. Sorry, I got like a little distracted. So yes, having the moon in the 11th, squaring Uranus in the 8th. Uranus in the 8th is already this longer cycle of you becoming aware, especially throughout this year, because Uranus is activated by Saturn most of this year and is involved in a lot of these moons. It was involved in the Cancer new moon like a month ago. Now it's involved in this Leo new moon. And what's happening is it's squaring or opposing or even conjunct Uranus, and it's activating this part of your life where you're trying to examine your ability to be vulnerable and rely and connect and intimately understand other human beings. It's so I do think that you're undergoing this changeable journey in that area of your life, because Uranus brings sudden realizations, sudden shifts. And so I feel like what's happening is this kind of long journey that's randomly activating that area of your life where you have sudden realizations about your intimacy, your connection with a person, and your relationship with people, and how you relate to others, how you trust others or don't trust others. And I think you're getting these like sudden bursts of insights throughout the year in this longer cycle that's going on. And so I think this new moon in the 11th is one of these bursts of insights where you're starting to realize, specifically in your friendships, how are people showing up in those relationships? How are you showing up? How are you being vulnerable and opening up to people or not? Like there's some patterns there that you're living out, and you're going to gain these moments of wisdom and clarity around it. And I think with this King of Swords, you're approaching it from a place of mental understanding. So it doesn't feel like this really emotional process that I normally feel with the like an activation in the 8th house. It feels honestly like you are having this really rational discussion with yourself and saying, I understand this. I understand that I've been approaching relationships and dealing with people who aren't giving what I give. Or I've had trouble receiving, or I am showing up in this way, or this person's showing up in that way. And it's like you're just mentally kind of analyzing the situation and understanding where you're coming from, who you are in relationships, maybe why you're that way, where that stems from. Often this is coming from family. And because Venus is making a trine to Pluto in the fourth house, I do think some realizations can come through in terms of how this is related to kind of more suppressed aspects of ourselves that come from family. And because Venus in Virgo in the 12th house is trining this, I think it's also a great time to be releasing some of those things. So once you realize it, it's like it's gone. It just dissipates. I don't feel like this is a cycle that's going to sit and perpetuate. Like it's a new moon, it's a new cycle. So it's this realization comes, you drop this old behavior and you step into a new cycle and a new way of being with new thoughts about relationships, new ideas, new expectations, new patterns. And you're starting afresh. That's the feeling that I'm getting, is like a really, truly a clean slate, especially with a square to Uranus in the 8th house. The 8th house is transformative, it's regenerative. It's completely leaves things behind and starts anew. It starts a new life. And so I feel like this is probably one of the most, like the newest of the new cycles out of all the groups that I've been reading for so far. And I think it's going to be extremely healing in your intimate relationships as well. So even though these realizations are going to come through on the back of your friendships, I think it's actually going to be really healing for your partnerships. Because this moon is making a trine to Chiron in the 7th house. So I think you guys probably could have been experiencing, different different difficulties in your intimate partnerships. Chiron has been in the 7th house for a while, so this is a very long ongoing transit that you experience. Whenever it's activated, you experience moments of challenges in your relationships, and I think some of that is healing now. And I think it's also healing some of those childhood woundings that crop up in relationships and create more of a divide between you and that person. Like, I'm really feeling that realizations are starting to come. However, this moon is also making an opposition, loose, but it's still there, to Saturn in the 5th house. So I feel like you guys are going through a longer process or cycle of understanding what creates fulfillment for you, maturing around your dating life or around how you interact with your children and parent. I also feel like if you own a business or are in some kind of creative endeavor, even just hobbies, I think that there is also a maturation going on there. That's a longer cycle occurring. And so and that's basically Saturn in the 5th house. And this is opposing the moon in the 11th. So I feel like there can be some things here where it can feel like maybe some of these new beginnings and new realizations you're having in your friendships and your patterns about relationships. I think it's ultimately, yes, it's going to inform your relationships, but like the lighter side of you that just wants to like have fun and pursue those passions, I think it's going to be like weighed down a little bit with this Saturn opposition. It's like, okay, I have these new concepts of how I want to approach my relationships. Like, let's go out and apply it. And with the opposition to Saturn, it's like, well, we can't just like be with whoever and date whoever now. And it's like, this is like a responsibility around this. And like having fun has like, almost has like little attachments to it in a way. Where like maybe before you had these realizations about relationships, you just kind of went freely to whoever and dated whoever and did whatever you wanted. And now that you're having these realizations about like who you are, what you need, how you show up, there's like this added element of just responsibility in making decisions about things that used to feel really light and free and fun related to connecting with others or just even pursuing your hobbies. It's like, I feel like you guys, sometimes when you grow up and you understand yourself more, it's like, you know how they say, like, what do they say? Like, naivete is basically, what is that? Like, makes you happier. It's easier. I don't know. I cannot remember the saying. Wow.
Um, but I feel like it's coming from that place. Like, okay, now that you have this wisdom and this understanding, there's also some sense of responsibility with that and like heaviness with that, because responsibility feels heavy sometimes. Not in a negative way at all. I don't think it's just straight up negative, but I do think it's not as easy and as flowing and as free and as youthful and as fun as like being naive is. I guess is what I'm saying. But you guys also have Jupiter in the fifth house, so it's not like this just heavy energy just sitting in your fifth house. You have Jupiter there supporting it, helping you be more optimistic about this area of your life, even if it does come with an extra dose of responsibility. However, Jupiter is making an opposition to Mercury in the 11th house, so I think you might also be like overly optimistic at this time about your relationships, in the sense that you might feel like, oh, well, I can still be light and free and fun and naive. And it's like, actually, you really can't. So if you continue to make those decisions, you're actually going to be going back into the past. So it's like you have to step up and be more mature, more responsible. But maybe there's like an idealistic side of yourself that kind of still wants to like throw caution to the wind. And this is saying that's a little bit over idealistic or over optimistic about your current scenario. Like that's not really that's not how things are gonna be moving forward. But right now you might still think that you can kind of think in your old way and do things in your old way, but you are going to quickly realize you're in a totally new cycle and that's actually not the case. So I hope that makes sense. You guys also, I mentioned, have Venus and Virgo in the 12th house, and this is opposing Neptune in the 6th house. So there can be aspects around relationships and money for everyone with this opposition that is unclear right now. That is going to come, I think, really full circle at the end of August when we experience Venus. I think it's opposing Pluto. I think some things are going to come to light at that time. And we're going to be made aware of certain aspects of our relationships and money. But because Venus is in the 12th house opposing Neptune in the 6th, I actually feel like this is kind of saying that there is a need for rest. And yeah, I think a lot of us, it's like a lack of clarity. And I think that the message here for you guys is to just kind of rest. Both of these planets Neptune involves rest, and the 12th house where Venus is involves rest. So the message that I'm getting is a need for stillness in order for clarity to come around Pluto in the 4th house, which is around how your childhood has affected your relationship patterns. And again, that's going to show up in your friendships this month the most. So I feel like you guys have to have that stillness in order for that clarity to come. Because it's like a lack of vision there with Venus and Neptune. It's like you can't see with your mind's eye, or you can't see with your mind. You have to see with like your intuitive self. And you have so many intellect cards. So I do feel like you're gonna see stuff, but maybe like the aspects that specifically pertain to childhood are not going to be available to you intellectually. It's almost like you have to tap into them through like dream analysis or through that's so crazy. That's so weird. I just had a dream analysis the other day. That's super strange. My transit's matched Libra Rising, and I like had a dream analysis and it reminded me all this stuff from childhood. So that's actually probably really pertinent for you as well. I did not realize what I just said until I said it. Yeah, so like through things like dream analysis, hypnosis, meditation, that's when you'll start to access some of those memories from childhood, and I think that can be brought to your mental awareness at some point. So yeah, I think that's why I pulled this stillness card. You're going to have to go to this like ethereal layer in order to access the things from the deep past. And I think that's why I also got this wisdom card. We're going to have so much wisdom and clarity around our relationship patterns at this time and have a new beginning in our friendships, so we can cultivate relationships that feel like they're on an equal plane and aren't repeating any patterns from the past. And I think that this is going to make us feel really light in our life, like we have so much to look forward to. And this is also coming on the back of vitality. So I do feel like as we are taking care of our physical body right now, especially
when Venus is moving through your 12th house and it's going to reemerge in the first, I feel like it's asking us to take that time to rest and focus on rejuvenating our body in a gentle way. And then when it reemerges in the first, we're going to have some of our I think it's just going to make us honestly more attractive, and we're going to feel really healthy from the inside out. And I feel like that's what this vital card is saying. I also noticed that there's a serpent on this card, which is again this active regeneration. And I think that square to Uranus in the 8th is saying that there is a regenerative process going on. And so whenever we're regenerating, it's also equally important to rest, because we're integrating a lot of new energies, new thoughts, new realizations. And this clarity takes up our energy, it takes up our wisdom, it takes up our life force to like really engage in that. And so I think that we'll have to rest in order to create something positive out of it. I also pulled a 10 of Pentacles and then the Page of Swords card, which says legacy, and then curiosity. I feel like these cards could also kind of indicate us looking back into the legacy of our family with a curious mindset of like, well, how have my familial relationships been? How do my family react to each other? And I feel like looking at the patterns that not just occur within you, but in your whole family line with the sense of curiosity. And I think that's going to give you, again, more clarity in your life. Okay, so that's what I'm seeing for you guys, Libra and Libra Rising. If you are interested in learning about astrology yourself and seeing how this affects your chart personally, it's very fascinating, because if it hits a personal planet, you can actually have a total change in your life. Like, it's going to affect you on such a deep level, and you would be able to see how that change can manifest in your life. So if you're interested in learning how to do that for yourself, then I highly recommend joining the North Node Society, which is linked down below. So yeah, go check it out, see if you're interested in that. And if you enjoy this, please like and comment down below. I always read the comments. They mean so much to me. And I hope that you guys have a beautiful day. Bye. All right, up next we have Scorpio and Scorpio Rising. So for you guys, this is an exciting one. This new moon is happening in your 10th house of career. Ooh. And wow, you guys might have some opportunities coming up soon to collaborate and work with other people to bring something alive in your career, especially because this moon is making a square to Uranus in the 7th house. I definitely see some changes happening in your relationships. This could be people that you would potentially work with, or it could be your intimate partnerships, but somehow that change in your relationship, this could be on multiple levels with multiple people, but whatever shift here that you feel like needs to come in, this realization, this impulse that comes in where you're like, this aspect of my partnership or my relationship or this friendship or whatever close either work partner or intimate partner or friend or family, whoever that person is, you need to make a change in that dynamic, or even just the way that you approach your relationships in general. And you're going to have that sudden realization, and you're going to know that you need to adjust it kind of immediately or very soon. And with this moon making a square to it, it's going to have an immediate effect on your career or on your relationship with authority figures in your life. So don't resist any change in your relationship, because I do think it's going to bring more opportunities in your career. That's what I think that's the biggest thing that I'm hearing is opportunities, because I got the collaboration and choices. And so I feel like what's coming through for you guys is just maybe the possibility to work with more people, and you're almost going to have to decide how you want to do things. Or maybe you are going to have the opportunity to work with somebody, and you're going to have a lot of choices that stem from that, where you guys are going to have to learn how to merge your two visions, because it's like, it's a 7 of Cups. There's lots of different potentials is what I'm seeing, like all these different paths that you can follow. And I think with the 3 of Pentacles, it's with somebody else that you're meant to be doing this. And so you have to decide either with that person or which path to take. If there are multiple people that you can choose from, something like this. I also feel like the change in your relationship, maybe you have a choice about what that changes exactly. I think you know that there needs to be some kind of change, but with this choices card, it could feel like maybe you don't have one specific idea of how you want to change. Maybe there's like, you just know that there needs to be something new, and you're not even like quite sure what that is, and you have to make a choice about what that change should look like for you, and how to make an improvement, because maybe you don't have full clarity around what that change should be. Do you guys see how cards just are not falling out today? It's happening in all the decks. It's driving me nuts. Communication. This is very important. When I pull the Three of Cups, when I have so much going on in relationships, I feel like communication is going to be so key here, especially when you're in this phase of the Seven of Cups of choices. When you're in this phase, I feel like you guys are going to need to communicate more than ever, because it's possible that you don't know what you want. And in order to make this clear to the other person, or even clear to yourself, you need to communicate through the process of your thoughts. That's the feeling that I'm getting, is like, don't wait to come to a conclusion. I think it's going to be important for you guys to actually sit and talk to someone through all of the things that are coming up, and like take them down the road of your decision making, so that they either can see what you're doing and see where you're coming from and help you decide, or at least just like act as a sounding board. But I don't think you'll be able to necessarily figure it out alone. Maybe you can, but I think it's going to be a lot more difficult. I do think that you're meant to communicate all along the way. So this could be leaning on a friend, even. You could be communicating with someone who's not directly involved in the scenario. It doesn't have to be someone who's involved if you don't feel comfortable with that. But needs to be some act of like really talking your ideas out, talking your options out, and finding clarity through that communication. I also pulled the Refinement card. These cards are so beautiful, aren't they? I think they're like my new favorite deck right now. And I pulled the Tranquility card. Oh, I love that. So I feel like you guys are moving towards a more tranquil state. Actually, you know what? I take that back. The reason I take it back is because right underneath the Tranquil card, I have the Anxiety card. These were literally stacked on top of each other. So what is going on, you guys? Maybe this is the medicine. Maybe this is the advice. That's what that is. This is the advice. That's why I got the communication. That was your first piece of advice, to talk through your choices with somebody. Then the Tranquility card is really trying to tell you to, I feel like, honestly, tap into your spiritual side. Because we got the number 743, which in numerology is 7. We got the Pisces card on here. And we got the purple, which is the most spiritual of the colors. And I feel like what this Tranquil card is saying is that you guys are going to have possible anxiety around this moon. And I think it's saying that you really, really need to embrace like very tranquil spiritual practices, whether this is like having a ritual or meditating or whatever it is. I feel like you guys need to have some kind of medicine at your fingertips that feels like spiritual salve in your life. And so I think that's going to help ease some of the anxiety that you're going to feel around this moon as well. And I think the anxiety can kind of come in when we have choices, because it's like, what do I choose? What do I decide in this change in my relationship? And again, this is going to impact your career direction, which is so interesting. Like, I do feel like you're going to work with somebody, or you're going to meet somebody that's going to affect your like decision within your career. There's some aspect here that's like, you change this and then like your career changes, or you change this with this person, your career changes, or possibly your relationship with your authority figures change. So like maybe your boss, it's like, I'm going to change this in my relationships, and I'm going to change my way of approaching and talking about certain things in relationships, and somehow that like affects my relationship with my boss. So stuff like that. After the Seven of Cups, I pulled the Practicality card, the Queen of Pentacles. This is a lot of independence. To me, what this is saying, that even though if you talk this out with somebody, which again, I highly recommend, At the end of the day, you're the one who needs to make this decision and to rely on yourself. The Queen of Pentacles is the most independent woman card of the deck. And that's the feeling that I'm getting, is that you are meant to be using other people as a sounding board. Other people are really prominent in your reading right now. But at the end of the day, the core of what's happening and the core of your decision making all needs to come from you and what you believe. And so I think the communication is going to help you sort out what you believe, but again, try not to be influenced by decisions of others. And I think that practicality also has another message there, to be grounded and practical in your approach to whatever does need to change. If you're like, okay, I need to change all these things in relationships, like maybe just change one thing and start there. Or maybe you like want to start working with somebody, but it's like, can you start small? Can you be practical? Can you be realistic about how much time and energy something is going to take? And this is especially important because there's a lot going on in the astrology that lends itself to not being practical. You have Jupiter in the 4th house, and it's making an opposition to Mercury in your 10th house. And so this creates this like grandeur, this vision, this optimism about your career, and it might be an overestimation of what is realistic. This Queen of Pentacles card is saying you have choices, you have opportunities, you have the ability to grow significantly in your career and make changes to your relationships and how you work with other people, but you might not be able to do it to the biggest extent that your vision can see right now. And that's because Jupiter and Mercury in this opposition loves to see big, loves to be like very optimistic, and it's not grounded always in reality. It can be like this aspect of ourselves where we think something is possible, and yeah, it's probably possible, but maybe in a different way, maybe taking more time, more resources, and it's like we have to ground ourselves in the practical right now. But I also kind of feel like when you guys try to be practical, like for some reason I feel like it's gonna give you anxiety because of this card. I hate that it like ends on that card, but I just get the feeling that this is an ongoing process, and I think because it's ongoing and there are changes occurring and in major areas of your life, in career and relationships, like it's bound to give you anxiety, and it's bound to just be something. I mean, it's just, your life is really changing. Your life is really shifting. Like, it's things like that don't happen without a touch of anxiety, without a touch of worry. You know, we're not just going to let go and be like, oh, I don't really care that I'm doing a totally new career. I don't really care that I'm totally changing this relationship. It's fine. Like, it's not fine. You know, it's like we've been living in that mode for a certain amount of time. Our natural inclination is going to want to hold on to that mode instead of shifting it. But as a Scorpio, you're going to allow yourself to shift and to change. But these changes aren't going to come without some kind of dose of worry and anxiety. Okay, so I just Googled what the word refinement meant by definition because I wanted to read this to you. Because I thought it was interesting that I pulled this card. So I got two definitions. One is the process of removing impurities or unwanted elements from a substance. And the other is the improvement or clarification of something by the making of small changes. I kind of feel like, you guys, that is what I was saying before with this practicality card, is that you have a lot of choices and a lot of things that need to be changed, especially in terms of relationships. But I almost feel like the refinement card is saying to take it a small step at a time, and you're going to refine your relationships or your approach to relationships or even working with others slowly over time, and that's the best way to do it. That's the most realistic way to do this without becoming completely anxiety ridden and overwhelmed. I also think the refinement card, since it says it's about removing impurities, I think it's removing impurities in your relationships. It's changing those things that feel like they are not uplifting you. They feel like they're holding you back in some way. That is the feeling. Like something in your relationships have been holding you back from actually stepping into this really big presence in the world. And that's why this square with Uranus in the 7th is connected to a new moon, a new beginning happening in your career, because this relationship shift is going to allow you to unleash so much of your potential power and your presence in the world. And so I think that by removing some of these impurities, you're going to create so much more room in your life to grow, because you're not going to have to be putting energy fighting these toxins or fighting these difficult situations, or fighting anything that's holding you stagnant. It's like, imagine grass with weeds, for example. I was told recently, now that I moved somewhere new and my lawn is dying, I was told recently that the weeds actually will grow in the grass and take all the moisture from the grass. So even if you're watering it, if there are weeds, the weeds are getting most of the water. And I feel like what this is saying is that when you're removing the toxins from your life, the grass is just allowed to grow. So once you have less toxins in your relationships and you're having to spend less time putting so much water and water to all these weeds that are just taking and not giving to the real fruit of your life, which is the 10th house, which is your career, you being seen, you stepping up in this big way in your life, you'll just have so much more energy for that. So I hope that makes sense. The moon is also making a trine to Chiron in the 6th house. So I feel like you guys are going to be having some healing around your self-talk once you do make these shifts in your relationships. I think it's going to improve your mental health. I do think that that's going to take time because of this 9 of Swords card. I don't think that this is going to be in the next 2 weeks. I think it's going to be over the course of the next 6 months that you're going to maybe start to leave some of that anxiety behind, or some of that self-criticism behind. We all have it. So how much of that is up to you, that you leave behind, is really up to you and your behavior. Okay, you guys also have Venus and Virgo in the 11th house making a opposition to Neptune in the 5th house. So I think that this can create a little bit of like an ability to be deceived about or like a lack of clarity, or like, yeah, so Venus opposing Neptune in general is going to create a lack of clarity around our relationships and money. And it creates a lack of clarity by making things seem very ideal, by making things seem like too good to be true. And so with Venus in the 11th specifically, this could also really come in around creative projects and goals and ventures that you have, or romantic partnerships and friendships that you're creating. There can be like, you move somewhere new and you create these like new group of friends, and you're like, these people are the shit, these people are my answer to all my problems. And then you realize like a month later, hey, I still have similar relationship problems in this group as all the other groups, because it's not the group that really needs to change. It's me and my approach to relationships that needs to change. So just be careful with that here, that you're not overly idealizing like a goal that you have, a creative project that you have, a friendship that you have, a dating life that you have. Some aspect of those parts of your life can seem like picture perfect right now. And it's not, because it's not reality. I mean, not to like bring you down, but there's just some elements there that are not fully brought to our awareness yet as a society. Venus and Virgo in the 11th is also making a trine to Pluto in the 3rd. I feel like this is really improving your communication with your friendships. And so as you start to make these shifts in the way that you relate to other people, I think your ability to communicate and hold your power and hold your boundaries in your communication, own your needs, ask for what you want in your friendships, that's going to start improving significantly. I pulled the card, She Who Enfolds, Swath, Embrace, and Self-Care. So I think that this is going to help you significantly with this trine to Chiron in the 6th house. If you can take care of your physical body and do like little things like take a bath, or spend time meditating or walking in the woods, like your mental health, this anxiety card, I feel like is going to be improved. Your mental health will be improved if you take this time to nurture yourself in just a small kind of routine, mundane ways throughout your day. I also pulled She Who Instigates, Leadership, Provocation, and Power. I feel like this is your Pluto in the 3rd house. I think this is also linked to the square with Uranus in the 7th. It's you making these shifts and standing in your power in your partnerships, in your relationships, and saying, this is what I want, this is what I deserve, this is what needs to change, but also having realistic expectations and starting small and not trying to just upheave a whole relationship or a whole way of being. Like, let's start with the little things, but let me get super clear and honest with you about what I deserve as a person.
So that is what I'm seeing for you guys, Scorpio and Scorpio Rising. If you want to learn astrology, if you want to see how this impacts your chart personally, if you want to learn all the little aspects of your psyche, then I highly recommend joining the North Node Society membership. The link is down below. You can check it out. If this reading resonated with you, please like and comment down below. And I hope you have such a beautiful day as always. Bye. All right, up next we have Sagittarius and Sagittarius Rising. So this new moon in Leo is happening in your 9th house. And this is often linked to new expansive beginnings in terms of your living situation. Sometimes this could be like you moving abroad or traveling abroad, or if you've been waiting on like documents for things like that, then it could also relate to that. It can also be a shift in your beliefs, your life trajectory, what you want to study, things like this. Okay, wow, there's a lot of cards here. Interesting. You guys, I feel like Sagittarians have been having a really interesting year in terms of their relationships and career. I don't know, you guys have just really stood out to me for some reason. So having this new moon in the 9th making a square to Uranus in the 6th. So whatever happens with this square to Uranus is basically saying that whatever change that you have coming up in your life is going to affect either like what you study, where you live, all those things that I was just mentioning. So with Uranus in the 6th, there's a change to your to either your work. This is very possible for a lot of you. If you're working for a company, you could have a desire now to suddenly change to work for another place, or to have a change in the way that you relate to people in your company, in a company, like your colleagues, your relationships with them. It could also mean that you have a sudden desire to have a different kind of routine or a different way of taking care of your body and your health. Maybe you're picking up some new exercise routines, or maybe you want to have a new schedule where you get up earlier, you go to bed, you know, and without any electronics, things like this. Like, I feel like you guys are going to have some kind of desire to make a change to something that occurs for you on a mundane daily level. So that's either you showing up to work, you taking care of your health, you taking care of your routines, but you know that there is something that needs to change. It could also be related to mental health. The 6th house has a lot to do with the way that we think about ourselves and talk about ourselves. You guys can have some kind of shift in that area of your life, or you realize, okay, no, I need to be nicer to myself. I need to work on my mental health and take care of myself in a different way. But whatever is happening, whatever change that you desire in that area of your life, I think it's going to lead you to grow a lot as a person. So if you, for example, decide to make that change to how you set up your day, and you start getting up at 6 a.m. and working out every day before you go to work, the feeling that I'm getting from that with the moon in the 9th is that you start to generate a ton of energy, and you have a lot more ideas coming to you, and you start to basically start to expand your energy outward as a person, and you're able to attract more people and more experiences through which you can start to understand yourself more, and you can start to achieve I guess a greater level of, like, I want to say like leadership, because I pulled this card. I feel like it's you guys kind of stepping up as a leader in your life and becoming this type of role model for people. So it's like whatever little changes you're making are going to help you, are going to help you become like the leader of your life. And I feel like you guys are finally going to stop some type of cycle that you've maybe been experiencing. Maybe you have had kind of bad habits or something that you feel like, if I could just go to bed on time, if I could just work out every day, if I could just change this job, then I would be able to be this like version 2.0 of myself, and I could finally stop this cycle of feeling negative or feeling whatever you feel. And I feel like because it's next to this 5 of Swords cards, this defeat card, I feel like what it's saying is that any kind of like self-defeating behavior that you have, that you do on a consistent basis, something that isn't adding to your well-being, this is the cycle that you're stopping. This is what the universe wants you to shed light on, so that you can again step into this
really inspiring, adventurous energy where you're curious about things, you want to explore things more. And it feels like, yes, it feels like very creative and very adventurous. I don't know if I've already said that. So I feel like you guys are stopping any of these like defeating patterns or thoughts and replacing them with better habits. And I also pulled the Six of Swords, which is about transitioning, and then the Knight of Cups, which is about, it says charm, but to me, the Knight of Cups is almost like this finding something and starting to make moves on something that feels much more emotionally satisfying. So if this is a job, then this is you transitioning into a job that brings you much more fulfillment. If this is a new routine, this is about transitioning into a daily life that feels like you are actually being filled up by it. That feels like it's like watering a plant, and then the plant starts to grow. So the routine, all of those little changes that you're making is the water, and you are the plant. So you start to grow and experience new things and try new things and get excited about new things. That's what I feel like the moon in the ninth house is all about. And it's coming from a really emotionally satisfying place. I think that's what the Knight of Cups is telling me, that you're taking action on things that bring you emotional satisfaction. This moon, however, is also making a loose opposition with Saturn in the third house. So not super powerful because it's at 6 degrees. But because it's there, I do think that you can kind of trip yourself up sometimes with the way that you think about things. I can see yourself having some self-defeating thoughts. And I think that's part of what needs to be shifted here. I think the way that you talk to yourself, that you talk about these new changes, these new beginnings, you might doubt that you're entering into a new cycle. You might doubt yourself and what you're capable of, what you're going after, or you just might just be like a little bit more of a Debbie Downer. Jupiter is also here, so there is that like lifting you up as well. And with Jupiter opposing Mercury, there is this feeling of being very optimistic and like overly optimistic about what you can achieve in a certain amount of time. So I think there is like this weird oscillation between feeling like things aren't going to change, I'm stuck in this, or I'm thinking negatively, and then this other side of you that's like, I want everything and I can do everything and like things are going great. So it's like you might kind of experience this weird like zigzag or jigsaw or whatever, this back and forth of these kind of energies of being really overly optimistic and then like underly optimistic, and you kind of need to be just somewhere in the middle. Yeah. And this moon is making a trine to Chiron in the 5th house. That is what I'm feeling for you guys. This growth period is coming from a place of pleasure. It's going to heal any aspect of you that felt like you needed to be super practical, or like you couldn't just enjoy the pleasures of life, and life couldn't just be easy. You couldn't just have a job that you enjoyed or had a routine and a schedule that you liked, and that things had to be practical or things had to be difficult. It's like I feel like all that is healing, and it's allowing you to feel like, hey, I can actually do the things that I love and that I'm inspired by it and succeed. Like both of those things are possible. But again, with Jupiter opposing Mercury, it's like, can we think about this in also a realistic way as well? So I can do this and succeed, but at what rate can I succeed? Maybe Jupiter opposing Mercury be like, I can do it right away. I can just quit my job right now. And it's saying like, maybe not. Maybe it's going to take a little bit more time. But just be realistic and practical while also realizing you can have the things that bring you joy, and that there isn't anything blocking you but yourself and just the natural element of time needing to pass. You guys also have Venus and Virgo in the 10th house opposing Neptune in the 4th house. So there can be some career visions that are over idealized at this time. So again, if you're thinking about quitting your job, take it practical. Don't just get up and quit and thinking that you're going to have this brand new career and that you're going to be super successful from day one, because this whole spread is telling me you will be successful, but that you absolutely cannot like make unrealistic decisions at this time and expect it to work out, because Jupiter opposing Mercury, Venus opposing Neptune, it shields us from seeing reality. It shields us by giving us this like mirage of this beautiful water oasis in the desert, and like we actually walk to it and it's not there. So be careful with that at this time. It's not that it's not possible, it's just that what you're looking at right now isn't actually accurate. And so it's possible, but in a different and more practical, grounded way. So whatever you're seeing in your career,
I want you to be positive about it. I want you to be optimistic about it. I do. I really do. I also just want you to be very aware of the reality and the practical steps and like your current situation. So if you need money and you quit your job and you expect a brand new business to make money for you from day one, that wouldn't be practical, right? But you can still be positive about transitioning into a new job or transitioning into a business and realizing that that is possible for you. This Venus in Virgo is making us a trine to Pluto in the second house. I love this. I feel like it's going to build up some of your self-esteem in terms of your career. I feel like you guys are feeling like, okay, I am starting to get good at some of these skills. I'm starting to get better at managing my money. And this career is actually bringing me finances, is actually helping me develop myself as a person and my skills and my self-esteem. And I feel like these things are feeding off of each other in a really powerful way that's going to add to your positivity. So I love that. And this is what I'm saying, you guys. Zenith: formulate, strategize, devise. She who prepares. That's what I'm saying, you guys. I'm saying that there's something here that's really powerful, that is brewing under the surface, that is ready to be tapped into. But you have to be practical. You have to plan. And this optimism that you feel, you know, sometimes, like I'm saying again, you have the Saturn there, so you might also feel pessimistic at times, but the optimism that you're also feeling is there for a reason. It's trying to help you be positive about the situation. Just be confident. Be confident that you can achieve this, but don't be unrealistic. Confident, positive, but not unrealistic. I also have the She Who Waits card: patience, waiting, determination. That's the feeling that I'm getting as well, is that this is something that takes time to unfold, to prepare, to it's a journey. It's not just going to appear out of nowhere. And so this is part of the realism, I think, with this waiting and preparing card. It's basically telling you what I was just saying, to be mindful of the fact that things take time. I also pulled love and emotion. So you guys might feel like a lot of emotional support from your loved ones at this time. I also think that this is advice about what to give yourself, is to concentrate a lot on your emotional needs and also on the needs of your partner, and leaning on your partner during this time. So that feels really positive, you guys. I'm super stoked for you. This feels like a really expansive new opportunity. And because it's a new moon, I really see this unfolding over the next 6 months. So give it time, give it patience, water those seeds, and don't hover over them, but encourage them with love when you do pass by them. So that is what I'm seeing for you guys. If you are interested in learning about astrology, if you want to do this for yourself, if you want to read your own chart, understand its intricacies and how these transits can affect you, then check out the North Node Society, which is linked in the description box down below. And I hope you have such a beautiful day. If you enjoyed this, please like and comment down below. I always read the comments, and they just make my day. They really, really do. So I hope you have a good one. Bye. All right, up next we have Capricorn and Capricorn Rising. So this new moon in Leo is happening in your 8th house. Oh, the 8th house is often linked with intimacy, and the first card that I pulled is the Lovers. So this could be centered around your ability to connect in relationships and in partnerships to other people. And a lot about vulnerability always comes through. So it's like, I think that's what the Lovers is it's showing your dual nature, it's showing your light and your dark to somebody, and it's not trying to be someone you're not. It's not trying to only show your light, only show your dark, be this perfect person. It's being your full, raw self with somebody. And I think that that's part of what this new beginning is for you, is learning how to do that with the right people at the right time in the right way. With this moon is making a tight square, 1 degree orb, so we're all feeling this strongly, with Uranus, which is in your 5th house of romance. And so I definitely feel like, because I pulled the Lovers card and because of what I'm saying up to this point, I definitely feel like a lot of you guys are going to have to make some shifts in your dating life. If it's not your dating life, it could be stuff with your children and how you're vulnerable and intimate with your children, because the 5th house is also that. But I really feel like, you guys, it's some aspect of the way that you are connecting on an emotional level with your partner, with your dating life, or I just feel like the romance side of your life is going to have to shift in some way, and you're going to recognize and have absolute clarity about what that shift is with time. I also think the sun here is not just about clarity, it's also about focusing on this Leo energy, which is where this moon is happening, this new moon. And it's basically saying that there needs to be a focus on the self. You have to bring more of your needs and your magnificence into the relationship. And I think that's probably what that clarity is, and also what Leo energy is all about, and why we're being drawn here, and why this new beginning is here. It's a renewal of the self and your confidence in yourself and what you deserve, and how you want to be romanced, how you want to be courted, how you want to be wined and dined. There's some really beautiful element of your life here that that is meant to be, like, you are meant to be put on a pedestal in some respect, in a way that you haven't been in the past. And I feel like that is what this Sun card is saying, is that you're stepping more into this Leo energy in your partnerships. And I feel like you're going to be able to do that by using your discernment, by using your ability your intellect, not your emotional state, but your intellect, to really look at the people around you and determine, okay, they've reacted this way. They've not just talked this way, but they've acted this way. They've shown me who they are. And besides how I feel about them, is this somebody who can step up and treat me like the king or the queen that I deserve to be treated, to wine and dine me, to court me, to have this new vulnerable relationship with, starting off with a renewal of my romance? Am I going to be able to have that with this person or not? And utilizing this kind of more like harsh side of yourself that isn't from the heart, that isn't from emotions, because that side is always going to have compassion and always going to think, well, those people can change, or maybe it's okay, or I really like that person. And the King of Swords is like, no, this is the facts. This is what they're capable of. This is what they've shown me. Are they a good match? Let's compute this, yes or no. And then that's how you're going to determine that. If it's not specifically about like finding a new match for you, I feel like the King of Swords is really talking a lot about the way that you're communicating with your partner, or the way that you're asking for your needs to be met in your romantic life. So if it's not about finding someone, if you already have someone, then it's really this clarity of communication, of expressing your needs, of expressing where you want that person to show up, and not just expecting the romance to drop in your lap, because you're an intellectual person and you know that oftentimes men, no offense, or just partners in general, can tend to be a little bit dense about our needs and don't just know what they are automatically, even though we often wish that they did. And so this is a need for us to be very clear and communicate. And once we can express that truth, that's when they start to reciprocate, because we have chosen a partner, or will choose a partner that we know will reciprocate based off of our needs. Once they do that, then that opens up this whole sphere of being able to be very vulnerable with that person and go into new depths of intimacy with this person, and possibly have many new beautiful sexual experiences because of this ability to bond in this way. And I feel like you guys are having a total renewal happening, an ending of a cycle. And especially, I feel like the Six of Cups, this is about the past. I feel like you guys have been reliving a cycle of something related to the past. You're either keep going back to someone in the past, or it's a cycle where you keep ending up in the same patterns as you did in the past in all these relationships. And I feel like with this cycles card, this Wheel of Fortune card, it's saying you're finally breaking from the past. You're finally creating a new cycle where it's not totally dependent on this kind of like you defaulting into your old way of being, you reminiscing on these memories or who this person was. It's like you're not doing that anymore. I feel like this is you saying enough is enough. I'm going to use my intellect to say to cut off this this pattern, this way of either not communicating or not choosing the right people and not expressing my needs. Like, it's done. I'm done with that. Oh my gosh, I keep getting this from everyone. For everyone. She who prepares, formulate, strategize, and devise. Interesting. I'm going to come to that in a second. You guys also have this moon making a trine to Chiron in the 4th house. So I actually feel like you being vulnerable and intimate with these people is actually going to create a healing around anything from childhood where you felt like when you did express your vulnerability, your needs weren't met. And now you're going to have the chance for your soul to actually be recognized, for your needs to be met in the moment when you express them. And I think it's going to be deeply replenishing for your soul and deeply healing for your soul to experience this, to finally be seen, to be recognized for who you are. But you have to express those boundaries and that truth and be a little bit cutthroat about who you decide to have this with in order to actually achieve this healing process. You guys also have an opposition with the moon opposing Saturn in the second house. It's a loose opposition. It's not going to be as strong, but it will be felt up to this point in time a little bit stronger. So essentially what I'm trying to say with the Saturn in the second, I think that there's still going to be this desire to put up some walls, to put up some boundaries, to self-protect, to focus on being very independent and taking care of your own needs. But that's not what this moon wants. This moon wants vulnerability. This moon wants intimacy. This moon wants honesty. This moon wants you to make very good choices about how you're going to express yourself and who that's going to be with. And I think that if you rely too much on this Saturn energy of walls and self-protection, you're going to be disappointed. So just be really careful about that, because that's not here to serve you at this time. I pulled the next one. She who flies, dare, do, and reach. Interesting. I feel like, I love this. I feel like there is this feeling that with Saturn the second, that we have a sense of control and power when we are taking care of things ourselves. But this dare and do and reach card to me is really saying that you guys are able to achieve so much once you unlocked the potential of true partnership with someone and experiencing what it's like to actually have all those boundaries down and to rely on someone and to have this dual partnership to lift you up instead of just doing things on your own. Like, two brains are better than one. People are so much better when together than when apart. And I feel like this flying card is saying that you have the potential to fly to totally new heights with the support of people in a different way, and relying on people in a different way than you have before. So if you have not opened up and relied on people, even if it's not romantically, even if it's just friends, if you know that you can rely on people more and be more vulnerable, then do it, because that's actually where a lot of potential is for you as a human being. I think the idea that vulnerability is strength, and strength is what can help you reach and achieve some of these things, because you'll have the confidence and the courage to be able to take the risk to fly. When you're flying, what are you doing? You're literally leaping into the air, and you're hoping that you don't crash and burn and hurt yourself. And I think that's what the moon in the 8th house is. It's this opening up to someone and putting yourself in this very sensitive and vulnerable position, just like when you're free falling or flying, where you could potentially be hurt. But there's so much strength and courage in that, and so much potential to achieve greatness in that, because you took a risk, because you put yourself out there in the open. Duality, interesting. Duality with this banana card. Okay, let's talk about some of the other stuff happening. You guys have Jupiter in the 2nd opposing Mercury and Leo in the 8th. So I feel like this is good in terms of helping you be more optimistic and more open to expressing this vulnerability with people. The only thing I want to warn against is sometimes with Jupiter, there can be an over-optimism where we are not quite able to see that maybe somebody that we're trying to open up to isn't actually the right person. And I think that's why I pulled this formulate, strategize, devise card. She who prepares. It's not so much to me as preparation as it is having a deep understanding of what you need and being really clear and honest with yourself is if that person is able to meet you in that place. And so I feel like this preparation is you just doing the initial steps right before you go all in. So choosing the right person, choosing the right time, choosing the right things to say. Those are kind of like the preparatory things before you become vulnerable, open up, and rely on people. And so that to me is what this is saying, is to just be a little bit careful to not always give people the benefit of the doubt, because sometimes that's not going to help you. You guys also have Venus and Virgo in the 9th house, and it's making a trine to Pluto in the 1st. So I feel like you guys are going to be studying new things right now, have the potential to travel right now. And I also feel like you guys might be more optimistic in terms of your relationships at this time. I mean, maybe not, but in general, it's definitely a possibility that you have kind of like a lot going on more intellectually. And I think that this is actually going to be really beneficial for your confidence and your sense of self. Like whatever you're learning right now is actually developing you as a human being and adding to your innate power, which I really love. I think that also is kind of related to this fly card. The more that you learn, the more wisdom that you have, the more potential you have to ride that out and actually do something with that. So if you're pursuing some kind of studies right now, or traveling, or trying to learn in some capacity, that is actually really beneficial. However, with Venus, it's also making an opposition to Neptune in the third. So there is this aspect here of maybe being over idealistic and expecting that this what you're learning is going to do maybe more than it does, or maybe that it's going to be easier than it is. It's like not being able to fully see things clearly in that regard, and defaulting to things are going to be perfect when in actuality it's like it's still life. So just be careful about that. And I feel like that is kind of explains a lot with this duality card. It's like we have a lot of potential, and it's saying to be optimistic about what that potential is, but then there's always, you know, the downsides or the harder sides of it. It's like you pursuing this education or this new thing or traveling, it might seem like this perfect thing, and it might seem like the be all end all answer, but there's always duality in life. There's always challenges. There's always going to be things that are good and bad about it. And so it's just saying be realistic. I think the duality card is saying to just embrace the fact that there is a cyclical nature in life, and that not everything is always going to be on the upward part of that cycle. So that's what I'm seeing for you guys, Capricorn and Capricorn Rising. If you want to learn about astrology and do all of this for yourself, read your own chart, understand your own psychological intricacies, understand how these transits can affect you, then I highly recommend joining the North Node Society, which is linked down below. And if you enjoy this, please like and comment. I love all of your comments, and I really appreciate them. Bye. All right, up next we have Aquarius Rising. So for you guys, this new moon in Leo is happening in your 7th house of relationships. So you guys might be experiencing some long-term shifts in your partnerships and the way that you approach relationships, the way that you work with other people, the way that you think about relationships in general. You could be having some interesting realizations, and honestly, like, I think that you guys are going to have some big changes in your emotional nature that is going to lead you to having this growth in relationships, because this moon is making a very tight square. It's a 1-degree orb, which means we're going to feel it very strongly with Uranus in the 4th house. The 4th house is all about our childhood, and the part of ourselves that is nurtured into reality. So it's like, it's basically our parents, the way that they parent us, and also just our nature, is all in the 4th house, and it kind of is all leading to legacy. It's all leading us to it. Okay, I'm not explaining this well. Basically, the 4th house is our family nurturing us, and our just innate nature being there, and all of that comprising our essence. So the way that we were parented, the way that relationships were shown to us as children, how our parents were together, all of those things are going to impact our ability to relate to other people, and the kind of patterns that we bring into our partnerships. And for you guys, what I'm seeing here is that you need to actually have some kind of shift or rift or break from what was happening in your childhood, or even an innate part of yourself. Some kind of like emotional foundational aspect of yourself needs to shift in order for your relationships to have this new beginning and change. And I definitely think you guys are meant to, but I think that it's going to be super important that you take a very close look at your childhood and some of those patterns that you can inherit from your family. And that's, to me, why I pulled a legacy card. It's this change in your foundation, the change in your legacy and your parents' legacy, and things that have been passed down for many generations. And it also can be a physical change in your home or your family life. So if you plan on moving somewhere new or starting a family, this change is also wrapped up in this, and it's going to affect your way of relating to people or your relationship with your partner. So this could be you moving to a place that's at a distance and it changes your relationship. It could be you examining things from your childhood and emotional responses and realizing I don't need to bring that to my relationships. And so you kind of start a new chapter, a new beginning in your way of being in relationships. So that's kind of what I'm seeing with that. And this moon is also opposing Saturn in your first house. So again, I'm seeing this push and pull between you focusing on relationships and then also feeling like you have a lot of responsibilities to take care of in your own life. You guys are really starting to form your identity with Saturn in your first house. You're deconstructing and reconstructing your sense of self. You're becoming much more responsible. You're having deeper awareness of yourself. This is a larger cycle going on. It's not just at once. But this larger cycle is taking a lot of energy. It's taking a lot of focus. And so sometimes that might feel like it pulls away from your ability to create these new relationship patterns, or focus on the needs of others and attract the kind of partnership that you're looking for because of that responsibility. So it's just all about balance. So just remember that. This moon is also making a trine to Chiron in the third house. And to me, that this is saying that when you start to make different emotional decisions in your relationships, breaking from that past, breaking from your family, or even moving homes or whatever change you do decide to make that reinvigorates and renews your partnerships is also going to be extremely healing to your ability to communicate and also the way that you communicate with yourself. Because it's making a trine to Chiron in the third, there's some healing of past communication patterns. So maybe in the past you would have talked to your partner in a certain way, and now you're able to do it in a really refined way and a really elevated way based off of these new emotional insights, based off of this new emotional beginning in your relationships. And so that feels very exciting to me. It's like this liberation of your voice, your throat chakra. And also I do think it relates to the way that you can speak to yourself as well. It's not just your voice, it's also your mind, because those things are intimately linked and connected. So I feel like there's a definite healing process occurring around these two things in your relationships and within yourself. Okay, I got attraction and focus. Interesting. And I also pulled these two cards. She who flies, Valaris, dare, do, reach. She who hopes, love, hope, and relationships. If I wasn't talking about relationships, I am now. I mean, obviously, you guys, this is a super huge focus for you right now with this new moon in the 7th. I definitely think it's a new beginning in terms of your love and relationships. It's telling you to be more hopeful. It's telling you that it's possible to have the relationship that you wanted, to have the communication that you wanted, and to not repeat these patterns from your childhood. It's really, really possible. Jupiter is in the first and it's opposing Mercury in the 7th. Just be really careful, because I think this is going to be, honestly, it's going to be great for your relationships. I think it's going to make you enjoy whoever you're thinking about right now when I'm talking about this. It's going to make you enjoy them more. It's going to make you more sociable, more optimistic about this relationship. Just be careful to not over-idealize this person or to expect too much from them too fast. Things like that. Just kind of keep your head on your shoulders, but allow yourself to enjoy whatever that feels like. You guys also have Venus and Virgo in the 8th house opposing Neptune in the 2nd house. And so I feel like you guys could have possibly with Venus opposing Neptune, for everyone, we are experiencing some degree of over-idealism of either money or relationships. And for you guys, because Venus is in the 8th house, you might start to like open up to somebody and feel like you can really trust them. And I guess all I'm saying is that just be a little bit more careful. Not that you can't open up to someone and that you shouldn't, because I do feel like you're having a new emotional beginning. But with this opposition, things might not be quite as it seems. There might actually be stuff that isn't brought to your full awareness about this person or about this situation. And so maybe it's good to just to be open and vulnerable and enjoy what is happening in this relationship with this person. But also, what about for the people who aren't in relationships? Just asking myself that now. Okay, I'll get back to that thought in a second. But yeah, just be careful when you are being vulnerable that you're also being realistic about this person and like what's going on, or maybe not realistic, but because I think that's hard at this time, but also just being aware that not all of the cards are on the table yet, and so there can be things that are not seen, and so this kind of like connection that you feel with someone could possibly change slightly. So that's all I'm trying to say. This Venus in Virgo is also making a trine to Pluto on the 12th. So I do feel like you being vulnerable, you being intimate is actually really beneficial for you in terms of releasing some of your fears around connection, some of your fears around things that may have happened in the past that could have made you feel disconnected from others, could have made you feel isolated or separate. I feel like you finally being vulnerable is creating this totally different reality for yourself in terms of being of finally feeling like somebody is seeing you for who you are. And I guess what I'm trying to say is like, don't over idealize that person when you start to do that, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, I have not really talked about these cards at all, so let's get into those. So besides this legacy card, which I was talking about you diving into your childhood and things from your family, I also pulled some really exciting cards. The Knight of Wands, exploration, momentum, and action. I feel like these cards are all saying the same thing. They think this is kind of like full steam ahead, but what's interesting is the last card that I pulled is the rest card. So all of these are like, go, let's do this. Like you have a lot of momentum, things are working out for you. Let's explore. We're really excited about this. We're really passionate about this. And that is the feeling that I'm getting, that things are all green lights in terms of this new beginning in your relationships and releasing some of these things from your childhood. It's all green lights. It's all good things. I do think it ends on the rest card to tell you not to get ahead of yourself. We do have this energy with Venus opposing Neptune, Jupiter opposing Mercury, that things are not fully to the surface, that not everything is seen yet. You don't still have the full reality of what's going on. And so this Four of Swords is telling you, even though there's a lot of momentum in terms of your relationships, and it doesn't have to just be an intimate partnership, it can be any relationship. We always are having relationships with everyone. There is a lot of positive momentum in making changes in that area, but also to take time for yourself, to take time to rest, to take time to reflect, to always be checking in so that you never feel like you're caught off guard or deceived because of some of the other stuff that's going on in the astrology. I feel like this She Who Flies card, this has been coming out a lot. I think this is saying that there's a lot of potential here. This relationship has wings. If this is somebody that you've just met recently, I feel like this is saying that this could be a real potential partner. If it's not about a partner, if it's just about changes in your way of relating to other people, I feel like it's saying that as you begin to release some of the burdens from the past, you're going to feel lighter and you're going to feel like you can soar and fly in relationships, and the sense of liberation in relationships rather than just heaviness or responsibility or issues. It feels like it's positive, essentially, is what I'm saying. I also feel like I pulled this attraction and focus card, and I think that this is really talking about the moon opposing Saturn. And it's telling you to focus on yourself and on what you are attracting right now in your relationships. To have a nice dynamic, to have a nice balance between these two. It's not just about yourself. It's not just about the other person. It's about both things, about your life, it's about their life. And can you create a nice balance so that you're able to have an actual strong and healthy relationship once you're in one? And this is also in terms of all your relationships. Can you focus on yourself and others equally in a really positive way? So that's what I'm seeing for you guys, Aquarius Rising. If this resonates, please like and comment down below. And if you're interested in learning about astrology, then check out the North Node Society, which is linked down below, and you can read your entire chart. There's an entire course there on astrology, and it's only $20 a month. So I hope to see you there, and I hope you have a great day. Bye. All right, and lastly, we have Pisces and Pisces Rising. All right, so for Pisces and Pisces Rising, this moon is happening in your 6th house of work. And I just pulled the Magician card, which is very positive. And I feel like it's basically saying that you guys are going to have some beautiful things start to come into your work life. And I pulled the Knight of Wands, the 10 of Pentacles. This is all looking really good for you guys in terms of work. Wow. I love this. This moon is making a tight square to Uranus in your 3rd house. So I feel like you guys are making a change to the way that you either think or communicate and express yourself, or you could honestly be like learning and starting to network and find like new things that stimulate you that can help you achieve your career goals. So I do feel like you guys are building something in terms of your career right now, or in terms of your who you work for. Specifically, the sixth house is about working for someone else. All these cards I'm getting are related to manifesting, being exciting, being inspired about what you're doing. And that's the feeling that I'm getting, that you're going to be with this exploration card. That's what, to me, the square to Uranus in the third house is saying, that you're making a change to the things that you're like interested in exploring, the things that you are looking at or learning about or are interacting with, in order to get an understanding of maybe more of how you can step up in your career. So if this is you working for somebody, maybe I can see you, I don't know, studying something new or trying something new, and it's able to help you like level up to achieve more financial security, more abundance, and actually work towards something more long term. With these 10 of Pentacles and 7 of Pentacles, it feels like it's going to be a great source of stability and abundance for you, but also something that takes time, that you're going to build over time through your efforts. And I also feel like you guys are opening up some kind of like portal right now with this Magician card. Come on. Okay, there we go. With this Magician card, I feel like you guys are able to create things now in a way like you're able to manifest things a lot quicker. So even though you are building towards something long term here, I feel like this creative energy of the Magician is saying that you are, through your exploration, you're going to start manifesting more opportunities for growth. You're going to see kind of almost like instant things popping into your life based off of you being curious, you exploring. It's like that opens up that portal for things to pop in, opportunities, resources, and people to pop in that have a lot of potential to help you grow in your career. So that feels really exciting. This moon is making an opposition to Saturn in the 12th house. So there can be some aspects here, even though the opposition is quite loose, there can be some aspects here of you desiring to rest, not having like the full energetic capacity to go after all the things that you want right now. That can kind of pull you down a little bit. It could also be things where you have some self-doubt or insecurities around yourself, or you just feel like maybe you're not good enough at times, and that can sometimes get in your way of achieving your career success. So I think that's what I'm trying to say, is to be really careful against this energy, because it's not going to be helpful for you. Oh my gosh, I love this so much. This moon is making a trine to Chiron in the second house. So I feel like whatever new things that you're starting to explore and work on and start again manifesting these opportunities, it has a potential, a long-term potential for healing your relationship with money, as well as your self-confidence and your belief in your skill sets. I feel like if you guys are starting to dabble and explore, you're going to start feeling like you're coming more alive, and you're going to start believing in yourself, and you're going to see how you can show up to these different opportunities and really excel. And you're going to be like, yeah, I got this. Like, hey, I'm actually kind of good at this. And I think it's adding to a sense of your wholeness. It's like healing parts of yourself that you maybe have had some self-doubt around. This is giving you a chance to bring greater wholeness into your life, and greater warmth and love to your skills and your abilities and the way that you can show up in the workplace. So that feels really exciting. It's also potentially going to give you a new job long term. So if you are working on trying to explore these new avenues, I think at some point it could lead to a new job opportunity, or a new management opportunity with this 10 of Pentacles within a job that you currently have. You guys also have Jupiter in the 12th opposing Mercury and Leo in the 6th house. So sometimes I think this can be difficult in terms of like managing our time, managing our resources, managing specifically our energy levels. So just be aware of this. Don't be overly optimistic about I guess like how much time you have or how much energy you have. Just kind of try to manage those in a way that's realistic for you. I pulled the card, She Who Sees, Observe, Perceive, and Scrutinize. So I think if you take time to rest, it's going to help you gain clarity around around some of your skills. I also pulled She Who Remains, Powerful Devotion, and True Worth. This is what I feel like you guys are moving towards. It's a greater sense of self-satisfaction and understanding that you are very worthy. And I think that's what this trine to Chiron, the second house, is saying, is that as you're exploring these new things, you see that you show up in really amazing ways, and you start to believe in yourself and your worth and your power and what you're capable of achieving. And this She Who Sees card, I feel like it's telling you to maybe scrutinize the voices or the things and the parts of yourself that actually don't believe in yourself. Because I think what this is trying to say is that you have a lot of potential here for a lot of growth in your career and your finances and your confidence, but you're going to have to fight that side of yourself with Saturn moving through your 12th house that is there to scrutinize, that is there to be a critic. And I think that's also part of the reason why you have a square to Uranus in the 3rd house, is there a need to change your communication with yourself and your thought patterns. So it's time to scrutinize and observe that inner critic that is coming after you and holding you down, because that's the only reason why it's going to slow your success. Really, you have a lot of good things coming for you. You also have Venus and Virgo in the 7th house opposing Neptune in the 1st. This is a classic scenario of sometimes we can have rose-colored glasses on in relationships with people. So just be really careful at this time that you're not overly optimistic about people that you're working with, people that you're meeting, people that you're dating. Just be really careful that those people are not like putting this air of being a perfect person, or that you are seeing them through that light when that's actually not true. No one is perfect. So it's just a time for us to be really aware and scrutinize again our thoughts that are really challenging against ourselves and overly idealistic towards other people. Scrutinize it all and really ask yourself to try to meet somewhere in the middle, somewhere really grounded, somewhere really realistic. Venus and Virgo in the 7th is ultimately beneficial to your relationships, and it's making a trine to Pluto in the 11th. So I also feel like your improvement of relationships is also going to help your improvement of your friendships. It's also kind of like intimately connected. Maybe you feel like you're more friends with that person now. I don't know. I just see some general improvement in relationship and friendships happening here. And I also feel like it's going to help you feel empowered through these relationships. Communication, again, I think that's part of what needs to change. Your communication with others and your communication with yourself. And this is going to directly impact your career, and it's going to directly impact your relationships. I also pulled a Tranquility card, which to me is saying that you need to also always some element here of needing to rest, especially as a Pisces. You can feel a lot of things. You can be quite sensitive. And so there's always a need to kind of take some time apart to take care of yourself, to focus on your own rest and well-being, and to nurture your soul in a very loving way. So I think that's what that's saying there. If this resonates, please like and comment down below. And if you guys are interested in learning about astrology and interpreting your whole entire chart, you can join the North Node Society, which is also linked down below. And I hope you guys have such a great day. Bye.